Chapter 523. The battle in the ancient desolate Forbidden Zone had ended. However, it was the beginning of an even bigger storm. Although some of the prodigies from the 7 factions had come out of the ancient desolate arena unscathed. However, if the mysterious 5-crowned king had not interfered, the prodigies from the 7 factions would have ended up like that. It was also because of this that the experts of the 7 major forces were incomparably furious. As for the bet on the ancient desolate arena, it was already meaningless. Both sides had already gone all out. However, most of the prodigies from the 7 factions were grateful to the mysterious 5-crowned king. Without 5-crowned king, they would not have been able to survive. However, there was another piece of news that cast a dark cloud over the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest. Yi Gu-chin never showed up from the beginning to the end. Not only that, even after the battle in the ancient desolate Forbidden Zone had ended, Yi Gu-chin had not returned to the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest. Not only were the members of the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest discussing this matter, but the other factions were also discussing it. Why do you think the Sword Sect Master did not appear in the ancient desolate arena? Could it be that he's afraid of 4-crowned king? However, I think that the Sword Sect Master might have silently fallen in the ancient desolate Forbidden Zone. All sorts of guesses and rumors were spreading throughout northern Yang City. However, no matter what, there were only 2 guesses. The first was that Yi Gu-chin was a coward and did not go to the ancient desolate arena. The second was that Yi Gu-chin had already fallen in the ancient desolate Forbidden Zone. Either way, it was not a good thing for Yi Gu-chin. Instead, the mysterious 5-crowned king was even more eye-catching because of the Sword Sect's negative example. Do you think that 5-crowned king is one of the prodigies from the 7 factions? How is that possible? However, I really hope so. After all, he saved all the prodigies from the 7 factions by himself. Isn't that kind of hero more admirable than the Sword Sect Master? That's right. In the past, I thought that the Sword Master was full of pride and respected him. But now, it seems that the 5-crowned king is the one who is truly worthy of respect. Even if he was a demonic beast in human form, I would still respect him, let alone a barbarian. Many people were curious about 5-crowned king and respected him. Under such rumors, Yan Wushuang, Zither Fairy, and the others felt melancholy all day long as they kept sighing. As for Zhou Tong and the others, they were already preparing to break through the life and death threshold. And the person who was the most perturbed was none other than the Shinto family head, Shinto Zhan. He was happy that Yi Gu-chin had not returned. However, at the same time, the 4 elders of the Shinto family did not return. What's going on? I'm not surprised that Yi Gu-chin has fallen, but why is there no news of the 4 elders? Shinto Zhan was a little nervous. The Shinto family did not have the same means as the blood barbarians to determine if a person had died from the shattering of the jade token. Therefore, Shinto Zhan was unsure of the situation of the 4 elders. Could it be that he left because he was afraid of leaving behind any clues? Shinto Zhan could not help but think. Indeed, this was the only reason. After all, if this matter were to be exposed, the Shinto family would definitely fall into the abyss. But in any case, Yi Gu-chin was already a dead man in Shinto Zhan's eyes. Fortunately, this hidden danger was nipped in the bud. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. With a faint smile on his face, Shinto Zhan breathed a sigh of relief. After the matter in the forbidden domain of the ancient desolate era ended, the 7 great forces and the barbarian race once again broke out in war. This time, the war was even more intense than before. Even divine dwelling stage experts were involved. The barbarian king, who had walked out of the 5 Elements temple, finally made his move. His strength was incomparably powerful, and even some divine dwelling stage experts from the 7 great forces were seriously injured by him. That was until Feng Manlu made his move. A divine wind sword roared in the sky. It blocked the barbarian king's ferocious power. At this point, there was no longer any doubt about Feng Manlu's strength. Even if he was only at the World Spirit Bridge stage, his true combat strength was stronger than ordinary divine dwelling stage experts. However, after a peak battle, the two forces temporarily ceased their activities. It was likely that they had suffered some serious injuries. And after the temporary silence, the two forces were very interested in the Five-Crowned King and wanted to know his identity. But after the ancient desolate era battle arena, the mysterious Five-Crowned King seemed to have disappeared, and there was no more news about him. The Five Elements land was an extremely vast land. The Five Elements barbarian race, including the Wind Clan, Thunder Clan, Soul Barbarian race, Bone Barbarian race and others, all lived on this land. The most mysterious place in the Five Elements land was naturally the Five Elements temple that existed in its depths. The Five Elements temple could be said to be the core of the barbarian race. It was a sacred place that was revered by all barbarians. The Elders' Assembly in the Five Elements temple was the existence that dominated the will of the barbarian race. It could be said that the Elders' Assembly could make the barbarian race fight in all directions, and could also make them forge swords into plows. However, the Five Elements temple had always been known for its mysteriousness. Let alone outsiders, even among the barbarian race, not many people were qualified to visit the Five Elements temple. At this moment, a figure appeared on a plain at the edge of the Five Elements land. He was wearing a black robe and had a handsome face. His eyes were as deep and bright as the cold stars in the sky. It was Yiguchin. Finally, I have arrived at the Five Elements land. Yiguchin sighed slightly. After leaving the ancient desolate forbidden zone, Yiguchin finally arrived at the Five Elements land after a few days of trekking. Boy Yiguchin, are you going to enter the Five Elements land just like this? The divine eagle, who was standing on Yiguchin's shoulder, asked. Of course not. Yiguchin smiled faintly and took out the disguise item that Su Moyan had given him from his origin ring. After a while, the original appearance of Yiguchin had disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a young man with a tall stature, bronze-colored skin, and an ordinary face. At first glance, Yiguchin looked like an ordinary young man from the barbarian race. The divine eagle clicked its tongue in amazement. The encampment of the water tribe should be in the Five Elements land at a place called Yunmeng Lake. I should meet up with the dragon girl first. Yiguchin thought to himself. As an outsider, he was quite unfamiliar with the barbarian race and the Five Elements land. The only person he could rely on was the dragon girl. Yiguchin planned to contact the dragon girl directly after arriving at Yunmeng Lake to see if there was a chance to enter the Five Elements temple. Yiguchin thought and directly walked forward. In less than a day, Yiguchin finally entered the Five Elements land completely. However, the terrain of the Five Elements land was extremely complicated. Not to mention outsiders, even the barbarian race would easily get lost without a guide. Yiguchin stood on top of a towering rock pillar and scanned the surroundings. The divine eagle on his shoulder looked at Yiguchin strangely and said, Boy Yiguchin, do you have a bad sense of direction? Yiguchin was speechless. The Five-Crowned King, who had dominated the sword sect for a generation, was actually a bad sense of direction. For such matters, it was better to keep a low profile. At this moment, a group of barbarian race carriages suddenly appeared in Yiguchin's line of sight. Yiguchin's eyes narrowed slightly. The barbarian race army invaded the Great Wilderness Mansion and naturally had logistics. This group of carriages must be returning to the barbarian race after transporting the resources. Moreover, Yiguchin sensed through the Tang snake totem that almost all the totem warriors in the group of carriages had water attribute totems. In other words, this group of carriages was returning to the water tribe. Without any hesitation, Yiguchin's figure flashed and caught up with the group of carriages. Not long after, Yiguchin appeared in front of the group of carriages. A young man sat on the leading wildebeest. The man was about 20 years old and wore leather armor. There was a faint arrogance and indifference in his eyes. Brother, I wonder if you can bring me along. Yiguchin slightly cupped his hands and said in a calm tone. Which tribe are you from? The arrogant young man asked calmly. Yiguchin did not reply because he did not know any of the barbarian race tribes. Seeing this, the arrogant young man's expression became even more disdainful. So you are a wandering barbarian? There was a trace of disdain in his tone. The so-called wandering barbarians were barbarians who did not have a fixed residence or were abandoned by their tribes. This kind of person was either a criminal, or a person with inferior talent and was not liked. Of course, there were also some vicious thugs who would be expelled and become wandering barbarians. However, Yiguchin looked ordinary and his aura was restrained. In the eyes of the young man, he naturally belonged to the first category. Brother Mo Tao, what happened? In one of the carriages at the back, a pretty girl from the Water clan lifted the curtain, stuck out her tender and pretty face, and asked. Chapter 524. The young girl was dressed in a watercolored dress, and her figure was exquisite. Her skin was not wheat-colored like ordinary barbarian women, but the tender white unique to girls of the Water tribe. And looking at her appearance, she was not old, about 14 or 15 years old. Shui Rua, it's nothing, just a wandering barbarian who wants to hitch a ride on the convoy. The arrogant young man named Mo Tao looked at Shui Rua, his tone was obviously gentle, and there was a trace of admiration in his eyes. Shui Rua blinked her beautiful eyes, glanced at Yiguchin, and said with a trace of sympathy, Brother Mo Tao, look at him, he's quite pitiful, let's bring him along, it's not a problem. Yiguchin had been running around for days, and his clothes were travel-worn, and his face was a little dusty. Coupled with the somewhat ordinary appearance after the disguise, he looked a little down and out. All right, for Shui Rua's sake, you'll follow us. Mo Tao snorted, as if he was doing charity. Yiguchin did not care and nodded slightly. Looking at Yiguchin's indifferent appearance, Mo Tao could not help but be a little unhappy. I'm so kind to take you in, shouldn't you bow and say thank you? What's the meaning of nodding? Mo Tao could not help being a little unhappy in his heart. But with Shui Rua around, he could not flare up. He just said with a little sarcastic tone, Kid, behave yourself in our convoy, don't have any crooked ideas. Also, you can only walk, do you understand? There was obviously an empty seat in the carriage. But Mo Tao obviously would not let Yiguchin sit in the carriage. Yiguchin did not care much. In his eyes, Mo Tao was not much bigger than an ant. Moreover, he wanted to go to Cloud Dream Marsh wholeheartedly, and did not want to cause trouble, so he did not say anything. Seeing Yiguchin did not have any reaction, a trace of contempt flashed across Mo Tao's eyes. Obviously, Yiguchin was equal to a coward in his eyes. Subsequently, Yiguchin followed this group of carriages and headed in the direction of Cloud Dream Marsh. Along the way, it was a little boring. The people in the carriages also began to chat. Tisk, TSK. Have you heard of the war in the Forbidden Zone of the Ancient Desolate? I've heard about it. The most surprising thing is the appearance of 5 Crown King. He has 5 ancestral totems. Even Tuoba Shang is far inferior to him in our barbarian race. Many totem warriors in the caravan side. The barbarian race worshipped the brave, and the 5 Crown King was undoubtedly the spiritual symbol of the barbarian race. In fact, his status in the world of berserkers was equivalent to the entire 5-element temple. From this, one could imagine just how great of an impact the descendant of 5 Crown King brought to the barbarian race. Is that 5 Crown King really that powerful? Shui Ruomiao's eyes were filled with curiosity. Clearly, she was extremely interested. Seeing the look of anticipation on Shui Ruo's face, Mo Tao couldn't help but turn his head and say, of course he's powerful. I was fortunate enough to hear from a holy son who participated in the desolate ancient arena battle. That 5 Crown King's strength is unrivaled, and he swept through all 4 directions. When the 5 primogenitor totems appear, even Tuoba Shang would have to avoid him. At this point, Mo Tao sighed and shook his head. That kind of existence was practically the peak of the younger generation of the barbarian race, and he could only look up to him. Big brother Mo Tao has actually heard about the 5 Crown King. Can you tell Shui Rua about it? Shui Rua's eyes lit up with anticipation. Of course. Mo Tao raised his head slightly, as if he knew how glorious the 5 Crown King's deeds were. Hearing others talk about the Five-Crown King, Yiguchin couldn't help but have a strange feeling, and he smiled faintly. What are you smiling about? Is the Five-Crown King's matter very funny? Mo Tao glanced at Yiguchin's smile and shouted unhappily. Nothing. Yiguchin said lightly. His identity as the Five-Crown King could not be exposed for the time being. After all, he stood on the opposite side of the barbarian race in the desolate ancient arena. If the news spread out, there would probably be a large group of barbarian race experts coming to capture him and find out his identity before he even reached the Five-Element Temple. Mo Tao ignored him and told Shui Ruo about the desolate ancient arena battle. Shui Ruo's heart was filled with longing. As Mo Tao spoke, there was a tinge of jealousy in his heart. After all, no one was willing to see the girl they liked admire another person. However, Mo Tao didn't mind too much. After all, whether it was him or Shui Ruo, they were too far away from the Five-Crown King. They weren't even from the same world. Sob sob, I really want to see the Five-Crown King. Shui Ruo's eyes sparkled as she listened. Shui Ruo, that kind of person is not someone we can touch. Even the honorable saints and saintesses are just ants in front of the Five-Crown King. Mo Tao shook his head and sighed. Shui Ruo's eyes revealed a trace of disappointment, but she also understood. She was just an ordinary water tribe girl, and her totems were only elite totems. At most, she was a totem warrior, and didn't even have the chance to become a saintess. And the Five-Crown King was someone who could easily crush saints and saintesses. As for Mo Tao, he was also an ordinary totem warrior. Otherwise, he wouldn't only be in charge of logistics. After chatting for a while, the atmosphere became silent. Shui Ruo glanced at Yiguchin, who was walking, and the sympathy in her eyes deepened. Come up and sit with me in the carriage. Shui Ruo shouted. All the barbarians were either riding horses or sitting in carriages. Only Yiguchin was walking. No need. Yiguchin smiled faintly. It's okay. Shui Ruo said. She suddenly saw the divine eagle perched on Yiguchin's shoulder, and urged Yiguchin to sit with her in the carriage. Yiguchin thought about it, and didn't mind. He directly sat in the carriage under Mo Tao's murderous gaze. This kid, he's going too far. Mo Tao's eyes turned cold. However, this was Shui Ruo's invitation, and Mo Tao couldn't say anything. However, his impression of Yiguchin was extremely poor. After Yiguchin sat in the carriage, Shui Ruo's gaze remained on the divine eagle perched on his shoulder. What a cute little red bird. Shui Ruo said with interest. What little red bird? Grandpa Condor is a condor, a big condor, do you understand? The divine eagle couldn't help but roll its eyes. It can talk. Shui Ruo exclaimed in surprise, and looked at Yiguchin expectantly. She seemed to be asking, can I touch it? Yiguchin smiled faintly and nodded. He had a good impression of this kind girl from the water tribe. Shui Ruo directly hugged the divine eagle, and kept rubbing its feathers. Grandpa Condor's feathers. The divine eagle screamed. Shui Ruo giggled. Yiguchin smiled faintly. After a life-and-death battle, it wasn't bad to relax like this. He also sensed that the totem in Shui Ruo's body was only an ordinary elite totem. I heard from the dragon girl that the ancestral totem not only has the power to suppress, but also has the power to help metamorphose. I wonder if my Ting snake totem can help Shui Ruo metamorphose. Yiguchin couldn't help but think. It was easy for him to activate the ancestral totem's metamorphosis power. But for Shui Ruo, it might be a change of fate. The difference in status between a totem warrior and a saintess was like heaven and earth. Shui Ruo's kindness made Yiguchin willing to help her. If not, he could greet the dragon girl. With the dragon girl's status in the water tribe, it would be easy for her to take care of Shui Ruo. As for Mo Tao, Yiguchin only hoped that he would know what was good for him and not provoke him. He wondered if Mo Tao would regret his attitude and actions when he found out the truth. Chapter 525. After 2 days of trekking, the team had thoroughly entered the land of 5 elements. They were heading towards the Cloud Dream Lake. During these 2 days, Mo Tao, who was leading the team, had a gloomy face. Especially when he heard Shui Ruo's bell-like laughter from the carriage behind them, his eyes were filled with gloominess. He is just a wandering barbarian. Mo Tao snorted in his heart. Although he was unhappy, he did not feel threatened. No matter what, Shui Ruo would not fall for a mediocre wandering barbarian. Boy, you are too ignorant. When we return to the water tribe, I will secretly teach you how to behave. Mo Tao's face flashed with a trace of coldness. With his status, it was easy for him to teach a wandering barbarian a lesson. At night, the sky was filled with stars and clouds. This group of carriages also stopped and set up campfire tents. Mo Tao and the others led a few totem warriors to hunt prey and barbecue them over the fire. The sizzling sound of oil made Shui Ruo's mouth water. She stared at the barbecue with her beautiful eyes. Shui Ruo, for you. Mo Tao tore off a fat leg that was dripping with oil and handed it to Shui Ruo. Shui Ruo reached out and took it. After a slight hesitation, she looked at Yi Guqin, who was sitting alone not far away. She walked to Yi Guqin and said, "Here, this is for you." Yi Guqin was stunned. Mo Tao saw this and walked over with a gloomy face. He said coldly, "Shui Ruo, don't worry about him. He didn't do anything during the hunt. Why should you give it to him?" "Thank you, but I don't need it." Yi Guqin saw this and took out his dry food from the vital ring. But the divine eagle on his shoulder was not polite. It flapped its wings and pecked at the barbecued fat leg. Hee hee. Shui Ruo laughed. Girls always had no resistance to fluffy and cute things. Mo Tao snorted and glared at Yi Guqin with a hint of threat in his eyes. He seemed to be warning him not to overestimate himself. Yi Guqin turned a blind eye and continued to eat his food. Not long after, they were full. Yi Guqin sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. In his mind, the brilliant sword heart was operating. Although he had comprehended 5 sword intents, he had not fused them together to comprehend the 5 elements sword intents. Although the 5 sword intents were powerful when used separately, they were still powerful. However, if he could form the 5 elements sword intent, Yi Guqin's strength would skyrocket once again. However, the 5 elements sword intent was a peerless sword intent. It was far more difficult to comprehend than ordinary sword intents. Even with Yi Guqin's talent, it was not something he could comprehend in a short period of time. However, just as Yi Guqin was comprehending the 5 elements sword intent, he suddenly sensed some movement in the distance. Yi Guqin's current cultivation had reached the 8th transformation of the Divine Soul, and the range of his Divine Soul's perception had also increased to 4,000 feet. This had already far exceeded the perception range of an ordinary 9th transformation Divine Soul transformation expert. It was also because of this that Yi Guqin was able to sense some dangers in advance. Demonic beasts. No, there's also. Yi Guqin opened his eyes slightly, and his gaze was deep. At this moment, Mo Tao and the rest did not sense anything. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, they gathered together to chat. Yi Guqin hesitated for a moment, but still decided to inform them of the news. However, he did not directly tell Mo Tao and the rest because he knew that Mo Tao would ignore him. Yi Guqin walked in front of Shui Ruo and said, "Shui Ruo, we seem to be surrounded." "What?" Shui Ruo was puzzled. "There's the aura of demonic beasts, and..." Yi Guqin wanted to say, but Shui Ruo's expression changed slightly as if she understood. She nodded and walked directly to Mo Tao's side. "Big brother Mo Tao, there seems to be demonic beasts." "What? Demonic beasts? Where?" Mo Tao and the rest instantly got up and looked around vigilantly. However, they did not even sense the slightest movement of the wind or grass. "Shui Ruo, you're too nervous." Mo Tao laughed and shook his head. He said, Shui Rua stammered, feeling a little wronged. Mo Tao frowned. He really could not help but scold, "Kid, that's enough. Don't you know who you are? Do you want to attract Shui Rua's attention in this way? It's too childish." Mo Tao shook his head. He was really a little impatient with Yiguchen. In his view, Yiguchen just wanted to use this method to show his ability to Shui Rua. Shui Rua looked at Yiguchen doubtfully. Was that really the case? Yiguchen's eyes sank slightly. Mo Tao and the rest's divine soul perception range was at most a few hundred feet. It was naturally impossible for them to sense the danger in advance like Yiguchen. Yiguchen spoke out of kindness, for the sake of the fact that they had brought him along the way. Seeing that Mo Tao did not appreciate it, Yiguchen also ignored him and sat alone to the side. Shameless. Mo Tao snorted. Shui Rua looked at Yiguchen with a trace of hesitation. In the short 2 days of getting along with him, she felt that the ordinary young man in front of her should not be that kind of person. But there was indeed no trace of demon beasts around. Maybe he's too scared. Shui Rua shook her head. However, in just a moment, a scream suddenly came from 10 feet away from the team. "Oh no, it's the cry of Turing!" a totem warrior exclaimed. Some of them took turns to guard the periphery. The voice came from the totem warrior who was on duty. The scream was extremely shrill. In the surrounding dark dense forest, pairs of blood-red beast eyes flashed with ferocious cold light. "It's a pack of wolves." Some totem warriors' faces froze. Although the demon wolves in the land of 5 elements were not strong individually, hundreds of them rushed up. Even an ordinary team of totem warriors would be torn to pieces. Not to mention their logistics team. In total, there were no more than 10 totem warriors. Mo Tao's face was livid. He glanced around. At a glance, there were at least hundreds of demon wolves. It was very difficult for them to fight against them. What made Mo Tao even more unwilling was that what Yiguchen said was actually right. Shui Rua was also frightened. The demon wolves in the land of 5 elements were fierce and well-known. She looked at Yiguchen. She did not expect that this ordinary young man from the barbarian tribe was right. But at the moment, no one cared whether Yiguchen was right or wrong, because they were facing a life-and-death crisis at the moment. Different from Mo Tao and the others' ugly faces, Yiguchen's face was always indifferent and calm. "Woo!" The demon wolves raised their heads and howled. Then, they rushed directly to the camp. "Everyone, form a circle and maintain the defensive line," Mo Tao shouted. Shui Rua was protected in the middle of the crowd. Although she was also a totem warrior, she was still a woman. Only Yiguchen, no one cared about him. They just followed him outside the defensive circle. "Kill!" Mo Tao roared. A group of totem warriors fought with the demon wolves. Blood splashed everywhere. The scene was chaotic. Yiguchen sat calmly outside the defensive circle. He turned a blind eye to the demon wolves. Some of the demonic wolves also charged towards Yiguchen with ferocious eyes. At this moment, the eyes of the divine eagle on Yiguchen's shoulder were shining. Vaguely, a faint aura of a 5th-rank demon beast spread out. Those demon wolves that rushed toward Yiguchen had instinctive fear in their eyes. They immediately retreated and turned their heads to rush toward Mo Tao and the others. Yiguchen did not care about these demon wolves. He frowned slightly and looked into the depths of the forest. Who are they? Chapter 526. In Yiguchen's divine soul perception, there was not only the aura of the demon wolf pack. There was also the aura of the barbarians. Obviously, the demon wolf pack was driven by someone. But this was not a threat to Yiguchen. In the dense forest, the sounds of killing and wolf howling were intertwined, accompanied by the splashing of blood. At this moment of life and death, they did not have the leisure to pay attention to why Yiguchen's side was not attacked by the demon wolf pack. Mo Tao also exerted all of his strength, summoning his elite totem. Even Shui Rua summoned her courage, summoning her totem and starting to fight. After a bloody massacre, the ground was littered with the corpses of the demon wolf pack. There were also some corpses of the totem warriors. Mo Tao's side lost 7 or 8 totem warriors. There were no more than 6 or 7 people left in the group. But seeing that the crisis was over, Mo Tao breathed a sigh of relief. He gasped for breath, his head full of sweat. Shui Ruo's face was a little pale. The rest of the totem warriors also felt lucky to have survived a disaster. Suddenly, Mo Tao glanced at Yi Guqian, who sat silently at the side and didn't show any signs of fighting, and flames of rage suddenly arose in his eyes as he said, "Kid, why aren't you making a move? We brought you along with us out of the kindness of our hearts, yet you're just going to watch helplessly when we encountered danger." This roar made Shui Rua and the others turn their eyes to Yi Guqian. Yi Guqian said indifferently, "Didn't I remind you just now? Since you don't care about it, why should I care?" Yi Guqian's words made Mo Tao feel like a rooster that was choked by the neck. His face flushed red, but he could not say a word to refute. Not only him, but the rest of the totem warriors also showed a trace of shame. Just now, Yi Guqian kindly reminded them, but they did not care, and Mo Tao even ridiculed him. Now, how could they be qualified to blame Yi Guqian? "You, humph." Mo Tao's face was extremely ugly, as if he had been slapped in the face. "Instead of arguing with me here, it's better to think about how to survive," Yi Guqian said lightly. "What do you mean?" Mo Tao's heart skipped a beat. "Ha, I didn't expect to be able to intercept a convoy." Suddenly, a deep and bright laughter was heard from the forest. A 7-feet-tall barbarian man walked out of the forest. His muscles were strong, and his chest was branded with a complicated demonic wolf totem. His face was ferocious, and his body was surrounded by a murderous aura. It was obvious that he had killed many people. He wasn't the only one who had appeared. More than 30 people's silhouettes had appeared in the surrounding forest. They were all totem warriors, and their bodies were emitting a fierce aura. "It's a wandering vicious barbarian," a totem warrior on Mo Tao's side shouted in a hoarse voice. His complexion had turned pale. There were 2 types of wandering barbarians. The first type was those with inferior talents or disabilities, and were abandoned by their tribes. There was also a group of thugs who had committed heinous crimes and committed crimes. Most of these wandering barbarians were quite strong. Coupled with their ferocious temperament, they were known as vicious barbarians. Vicious barbarians often appeared in the land of 5 elements, and intercepted people halfway. They were similar to bandits and robbers. However, these vicious barbarians were extremely cunning. They hid their heads and tails, and couldn't be eliminated. Therefore, they had become a scourge. "Are you the Holy Sun Lang Mo of the barbarian tribe?" Mo Tao looked at the 7-feet-tall man. It seemed as if he had suddenly remembered something. His face turned pale, and his lips trembled as he spoke. "Ha, I didn't expect that I would be so famous," Holy Sun Lang Mo laughed. "What, he is the Holy Sun Lang Mo of the vicious barbarian tribe?" Shui Rua's beautiful face turned pale as she heard this. Her delicate body trembled like a quail. Holy Sun Lang Mo was originally a holy son of the barbarian tribe. After committing a heinous crime, he betrayed the tribe, and became a vicious barbarian. He had a great reputation among the vicious barbarians because he had the strength of a holy son. However, he was most famous for his cruelty and bloodthirstiness. He was even more cruel to women. Almost all women who fell into his hands would be tortured to death. This was also the reason why Shui Rua was so frightened. She was only a 14 or 15-year-old girl. Holy Sun Lang Mo looked at Shui Rua with a murderous glint in his eyes. Shui Rua's delicate body trembled as she shrank behind Mo Tao. It was as if only Mo Tao could give her a sense of security. However, Mo Tao was also trembling at the moment. That was a Holy Sun-level figure. It was definitely not an existence they could contend with. Holy Sun Lang Mo, We are from the water tribe. Can you make things easy for us? Mo Tao braced himself and cupped his hands. If it was an ordinary vicious barbarian, he would have the courage to fight. However, in front of Holy Sun Lang Mo, how could they be a match? As for Yi Guqin, he had long been excluded. Ha, so what if you are from the water tribe, can you catch me? Holy Sun Lang Mo sneered. If it was so easy to be encircled and annihilated, the vicious barbarians would have been wiped out long ago. Mo Tao's last glimmer of hope was also lost. His face was ashen. Seeing this, Holy Sun Lang Mo's eyes contained a trace of ridicule. If you want to leave a way out, it's not impossible. As he finished speaking, he took a step forward and opened his legs. Crawl under my crotch, and I'll spare your little life. This. Mo Tao's face turned red. For the barbarians, this was an absolute shame. But looking at Holy Sun Lang Mo, and then looking at the 30 vicious barbarians around. If he crawled under, there may be a glimmer of life. If he didn't, he would die directly. Mo Tao gritted his teeth and slowly bent his knees. Brother Mo Tao. Shui Ruo's eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. In her heart, the indomitable Mo Tao, who had always been incomparably arrogant, was actually willing to crawl under someone else's crotch. Hearing Shui Ruo's shout, Mo Tao's eyes were filled with extreme humiliation. But he still gritted his teeth and crawled under Holy Sun Lang Mo's crotch like a dog. Ha! Holy Sun Lang Mo and the surrounding vicious barbarians all laughed. Listening to the laughter, Mo Tao's face turned green and white, his chest rising and falling. Next, the remaining few totem warriors also crawled under Holy Sun Lang Mo's crotch with humiliation. In the end, only Shui Ruo and Yi Guqin were left. Shui Ruo clenched her teeth, her eyes filled with tears. Shui Ruo, hurry up, do you want to live or not? Mo Tao hurriedly shouted. At this time, Holy Sun Lang Mo retracted his legs, and said in a cold tone, "Who said I'm going to let this little girl go?" This. Mo Tao's expression changed. Shui Ruo's pretty face also suddenly changed, she was struggling whether she should do such a humiliating thing. But now, she even lost this glimmer of hope. TSK, such a fresh little girl, how can I let her go? Holy Sun Lang Mo revealed a cruel smile. Shui Ruo's delicate body trembled, looking at Mo Tao with tears in her eyes. Mo Tao's face was solemn, although he liked Shui Ruo, if he interfered, he would definitely be killed by Holy Sun Lang Mo. His expression was struggling, but he didn't dare to stand up. Seeing this, Shui Ruo smiled bitterly, her heart was already in despair. Holy Sun Lang Mo smiled coldly, his eyes fell on Yi Guqin sitting on the ground, and couldn't help but frown. You brat, aren't you afraid of death? Yi Guqin didn't even lift his eyelids. Holy Sun Lang Mo, what is it? As soon as the words came out, everyone's face froze. Chapter 527. Who was Holy Sun Wolf Demon? The surrounding vicious barbarians couldn't believe their ears. They dug their ears with their fingers as if they were hallucinating. Although Holy Sun Wolf Demon was not at the top among the Holy Suns, he was very famous. Especially after he became a vicious barbarian, he became a fearsome figure. Facing such a ferocious Holy Sun, he actually dared to say such words. Everyone thought this boy was crazy. You're courting death. Mo Tao shook his head and looked at Yi Guqin as if he was looking at a dead man. Holy Sun Wolf Demon was so angry that he laughed. Ha, interesting. It's cool to be a hero in front of a beauty, but have you thought about the consequences? As soon as he said this, the group of vicious barbarians sneered. They couldn't wait to see the scene of Yi Guqin being torn to pieces by Holy Sun Wolf Demon. Even Shui Ruo slightly opened her pink lips and looked at Yi Guqin in surprise. She couldn't understand how this ordinary boy had the courage to speak to Holy Sun Wolf Demon with such an attitude. Feeling the surprised, disdainful eyes, Yi Guqin was a little dispirited. He had already lost count of the number of saints he had killed. Holy Sun Wolf Demon really couldn't arouse his interest. Holy Sun Wolf Demon's aura was not as good as Xue Wuchang of the Blood Barbarian tribe, let alone the Holy Sons of the big tribes. Lei Jiuyo, Golden Sun Holy Sun, and the others could press Holy Sun Wolf Demon to the ground with one hand. Boy, do you know how you'll die? You'll be torn to pieces by me. Holy Sun Wolf Demon's eyes were bloodthirsty. He slowly raised his hands. The fingernails on his 10 fingers slowly elongated and turned into 10 sharp white bone spurs. Looking at Holy Sun Wolf Demon's actions, the surrounding vicious barbarians were excited and cruel. They had seen Holy Sun Wolf Demon tear a divine soul expert close to the Holy Sun level into pieces with his sharp fingers. His method was extremely cruel. Mo Tao looked on coldly. Although he was still in danger, Yiguchen obviously attracted all of Holy Sun Wolf Demon's attention. Shui Ruo's face was extremely pale, and her delicate body was trembling. Die! Holy Sun Lang Mo's figure flashed like a demon wolf king, surging with an extremely strong baleful aura. Shui Ruo covered her eyes with her tender hands. She couldn't bear to see the scene of Yiguchen's tragic death. Sigh, Yiguchen sighed softly. He was too lazy to make a move. Sorry to trouble you, Brother Eagle, Yiguchen said calmly. Leave it to Grandpa Condor. Grandpa Condor can vent my anger. The divine condor cawed. It had been treated like a pet by Shui Ruo these days, but it couldn't resist. He could only vent his anger on this group of vicious barbarians. Die! The divine condor flapped its wings and yelled. However, in the eyes of outsiders, it was just a fist-sized little red bird that was crying out in a childish voice. Humph, what a joke! Holy Sun Wolf Demon sneered, and his claw directly grabbed towards Yiguchen's head. The divine condor spread its wings, and a monstrous scarlet flame swept out. When this flame appeared, Holy Sun Wolf Demon's face changed color instantly. 5th rank demonic beast. An incredulous voice came out from Holy Sun Wolf Demon's mouth. A 5th rank demonic beast was comparable to the existence of life and death chamber. Although Holy Sun Wolf Demon was strong, he was only in the 9 transformations of God's soul. There was a world of difference between the life and death chamber. Wolf God protection. Holy Sun Wolf Demon roared like a wolf, and hurriedly performed his last defensive move. The demon wolf totem on his chest suddenly bloomed with black light, and turned into a translucent black light shield around his body. On the light shield, a pitch-black demon wolf totem vaguely appeared. Seeing this, a trace of disdain appeared in the divine condor's eyes. With a flap of its wings, intense flames surged, forming an incomparably hot fireball that shot towards Holy Sun Langmo. Swoosh! Like a flaming meteor falling from the sky, Holy Sun Langmo let out a painful howl. His entire body flew out and spun in the air. In the end, he barely managed to land on his feet, causing the ground to crack. Puff! Holy Sun Wolf Demon's body shook, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His whole body was scorched black. Dead silence, everyone's mouths were opened silently, but no sound came out. Those vicious barbarians were stunned. Their leader was still aggressive, and his murderous aura rushed forward. But in a moment, he was blown away, and he looked so embarrassed. Mo Tao's eyes were about to pop out, and his mouth was open so wide that it could swallow an egg. Shui Ruo slowly retracted her hand, and her rosy little mouth opened, staring blankly at the little red bird flying in the air. She had never thought that the little red bird in her arms, which she had ravaged like a pet, was actually a 5th-rank demonic beast. Damn it! Holy Sun Wolf Demon's face was ashen, as if he had been smeared with a layer of ashes. He was famous among the vicious barbarians, but today he had suffered such a big setback and was in such a sorry state. If he didn't kill Yiguchen, he would not be able to calm down. What are you all doing? Go! Holy Sun Wolf Demon shouted angrily. The 30 vicious barbarians around him hesitated, but because of Holy Sun Wolf Demon's ferocity, they could only bite the bullet and go. Holy Sun Wolf Demon stared at the Divine Eagle with a dignified look. He couldn't defeat a 5th-rank demonic beast, but he knew he could barely take a few moves. As long as he could kill Yiguchin, he would leave immediately. Seeing this, the Divine Eagle flapped its wings, and flames surged in all directions. Immediately, some of the vicious barbarians were burned by the flames, and they howled in pain. Holy Sun Wolf Demon also took action, trying to suppress the Divine Eagle. Be careful. Shui Rua saw more than 10 vicious barbarians rushing toward Yiguchin, and she couldn't help but shout. Yiguchin's face was indifferent. He didn't even take the Holy Sun seriously, so these vicious barbarians in the 6th or 7th transformation were no bigger than ants. Yiguchin sat on the ground with his legs crossed, and didn't move. You dare to provoke the leader, die. The 10 vicious barbarians rushed toward Yiguchin with their swords and spears. Yiguchin directly activated the meteorite demonic butterfly in his sea of consciousness. A transparent starry soul wave suddenly poured out in torrents. And Yiguchin controlled it very well, so it didn't affect Shui Rua and the others, but only swept toward the vicious barbarians. Ah! Accompanied by miserable howls, the sea of consciousness of those vicious barbarians was directly shattered. More than 10 vicious barbarians fell to the ground and died instantly, bleeding from their 7 orifices. This. Shui Rua and Mo Tao were both stunned. But they didn't feel the soul wave, so they didn't know how those vicious barbarians died. Shui Rua's eyes sparkled. She felt that the death of those vicious barbarians definitely had something to do with Yiguchin. On the other side, the Divine Eagle showed its ferocious power, and completely vented its anger in the past few days. Let's go. Seeing that the situation was hopeless, Holy Sun Wolf Demon gritted his teeth and wanted to escape. You want to escape from me? No way. The Divine Eagle's body emitted a bright red light. Its whole body seemed to be burning, and finally, with a swoosh, it shot out like a sharp arrow and pierced through Holy Sun Wolf Demon's chest. A ferocious and awe-inspiring chosen son had fallen. After death, his eyes were still wide open, and obviously, he couldn't believe that he was killed by such a little red bird. Chapter 528. Looking at the Holy Sun Lang Mo who died with a black hole in his chest, Mo Tienga's eyes were wide open. Mo Tao, Shui Rua, and the others were all dazed. A notorious Holy Sun had died just like that. Died so easily. Shui Rua and the others felt that it was unreal, as if they were dreaming. After the dust settled, only Shui Rua, Yiguchin, the Divine Eagle, Mo Tao, and a few totem warriors were left. However, the way everyone looked at Yiguchin had changed. To be precise, they looked at the little red bird on his shoulder. They didn't expect that this young man, who looked like a homeless barbarian, would have a 5th-rank demonic beast. This was a great opportunity. Even Mo Tao was looking at the divine condor with a hint of passion in his eyes. If he could get the loyalty of a 5th-rank demonic beast, it would be like having a life and death chamber fighter. But Mo Tao was just thinking about it. As for Shui Rua, she was staring at the Divine Eagle with stars in her eyes. Damn it, why does this girl look like she wants to eat me? The Divine Eagle's feathers stood up. Let's pack up and hurry. Yiguchin said. Although he wasn't afraid of those vicious barbarians, they were still a hindrance. Yiguchin only wanted to reach the water tribe as soon as possible and find a way to enter the 5 Elements Temple. Mo Tao and the others came back to their senses. After packing up, they hurried on, fearing that they would run into vicious barbarians again. Along the way, Mo Tao's arrogant attitude was gone. At the same time, he looked at Yiguchin with a hint of fear. Previously, he had repeatedly provoked Yiguchin. If Yiguchin had wanted to make a fuss about it, the divine condor could have burned him to ashes with a single breath of fire. But obviously, Mo Tao thought too much. In Yiguchin's eyes, Mo Tao didn't exist at all. He was like a lion, would he care about an ant under his feet? Mo Tao breathed a sigh of relief, but it was replaced by a kind of grievance. With a 5th-rank demonic beast, even if Mo Tao returned to the water tribe, he couldn't teach Yiguchen a lesson. As for Shui Ruo, perhaps it was because Mo Tao didn't have the courage to save her at the critical moment. Therefore, her attitude towards Mo Tao was also somewhat distant. Instead, he was more curious about Yiguchen and the divine condor. When Mo Tao saw all of this, his expression became even gloomier. Big brother Dugu, why are you going to the water tribe? Shui Ruo and Yiguchen were chatting. Yiguchen directly changed his name to Dugu Wubai. In any case, no one in the barbarian race knew his name. Yiguchen paused for a moment. Without hiding anything, he said, I'm looking for Dragoness. He's actually looking for Her Highness the Saintess. Shui Ruo's pretty eyes revealed a trace of surprise. The holy sons and holy daughters had an extraordinary status in the barbarian tribe. Ordinary barbarian tribe members could only see them a few times a year. Dragoness is the most honorable saintess of our tribe. She's not someone you can meet just because you want to. On the back of the wildebeest, Mo Tao saw the intimate atmosphere between Shui Ruo and Yiguchen. He couldn't help but feel angry. But because of the divine condor, he didn't dare to be too presumptuous. He could only interrupt in a sarcastic manner. Shui Ruo pouted and didn't want to talk to Mo Tao. Yiguchen smiled carelessly and said, if I want to see her, she will naturally come. After all, Dragoness's life was saved by Yiguchen. Moreover, Dragoness still needed Yiguchen's Ting Snake totem to help her totem evolve. Dragoness should be overjoyed that Yiguchen took the initiative to look for her. How could she not meet him? But in the eyes of the totem warriors of the water tribe, these words seemed to be overestimating himself. That, big brother Dugu, even if you have a rank 5 monster, you may not be qualified to meet Her Highness the Dragon Lady. Not everyone can meet her. Shui Ruo said carefully. She was afraid of hurting Yiguchen's self-esteem. Yiguchen had a rank 5 monster. It was naturally different. But in the water tribe, there were rank 5 monsters. There were even peak rank 5 monsters that were comparable to the Heaven and Earth Spirit Bridge realm. Yiguchen wanted to rely on a rank 5 monster to meet Dragoness. Obviously, it was still not enough. Yiguchen shook his head slightly and didn't say anything more. Mo Tao secretly sneered. That, big brother Dugu, you said you wanted to meet Her Highness the Dragon Lady. Shui Ruo remembered something. Shui Ruo suddenly said. What is it? Yiguchen asked. It seems that someone from the Tuoba family came to ask for Her Highness the Dragon Lady's hand in marriage. Shui Ruo said and looked at Yiguchen. In her opinion, Yiguchen should have a longing for Dragoness. After all, Dragoness's beauty was not only in the water tribe, but also in the entire barbarian tribe. Such a beauty would naturally be surrounded by countless men from the barbarian tribe. In Shui Ruo's eyes, Yiguchen should be one of them. Tuoba family. Yiguchen frowned slightly. Although he didn't know much about the Tuoba family, Tuoba Shang was a member of the Tuoba family. Moreover, the Tuoba family seemed to have an extraordinary position in the barbarian tribe. Compared to the 5 elements barbarian tribe and other large tribes, they had a stronger foundation. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Yiguchen said lightly. Shui Ruo, do you think he can get the Dragon Lady's attention? Mo Tao saw and sneered. In his eyes, it was impossible to get the Dragon Lady's attention with just a rank 5 demonic beast. Can you speak less? If it weren't for brother Dugu, we would have been killed by Holy Sun Lang Mo, Shui Ruo frowned. Although Holy Sun Lang Mo said that he would let Mo Tao and the others go, with his ferocious character, how could he keep his words? Mo Tao's face was ugly and he didn't say anything more. But the hand holding the reins was full of blue veins. For the rest of the journey, Mo Tao didn't say a word. On the other hand, Shui Ruo chattered like an oriole and answered Yiguchen. Yiguchen responded casually, but in his heart, he was thinking about the 5 Elements Temple. Just like that, another 3 days passed. Finally, they arrived at the 5 Elements land, the encampment of the water tribe, Cloud Dream Lake. Yiguchin got out of the carriage and looked around. In front of him was a vast basin. There were many lakes and swamps in the basin that were connected to each other. White mist shrouded the entire basin. There were also rainbows that appeared in the mist. It was a peaceful and tranquil paradise. Is this the great marsh of Cloud Dream? Yiguchin was also a little surprised. That vast white mist was not just mist, but more like some kind of formation. Obviously, this Cloud Dream Lake was also covered by a protective formation. At the same time, Yiguchin could feel that the water vapor that permeated between heaven and earth was very dense. It was very beneficial for cultivating water-type totems and cultivation techniques. No wonder the water tribe chose to be here. Big brother Dugu, why don't you come with us? You killed Holy Sun Wolf Demon. That's not a small contribution. Shui Rua said considerately. Mo Tao frowned, but he couldn't say anything. Because this was indeed the truth. Just as Yiguchin and the others were approaching the edge of the basin. Suddenly, they discovered that there were many water tribe figures at the edge, and a blue-robed old man was standing in the middle. Why are there so many people here? The 6 elders are also here, are they waiting for someone? Mo Tao was surprised. Could it be that they are waiting for Brother Dugu? Shui Rua suddenly said. In her eyes, Yiguchin was extremely mysterious, and he even had a rank 5 demonic beast accompanying him. If it was said that he was just a wandering barbarian, even Shui Rua didn't believe it. Mo Tao's heart thumped, and his face froze. It can't be, right? If that was the case, then Yiguchin was far from someone he could provoke. Thinking of this, Mo Tao couldn't help but tremble, feeling uneasy. Yiguchin secretly frowned. He had not used the communication jade to contact Dragon Lady. This group of water tribe people was obviously not here to welcome him. Chapter 529. Mo Tao's face was gloomy and his heart was restless. If the 6 elders were really waiting for Yiguchin here, then Mo Tao would be in big trouble. But since he was already here, he could only brace himself. Mo Tao, Shui Rua, and the others brought Yiguchin to the edge of the swamp. 6th elder. Mo Tao and the others bowed to the blue-robed elder. The elders had an extraordinary status in the barbarian tribe. The blue-robed elder nodded slightly and looked straight ahead as if he didn't care about them at all. Mo Tao's eyes lit up. Could it be that the 6 elders weren't waiting for Dugu Wubai? That, Lord Elder, Big Brother Dugu killed Holy Sun Lang Mo, Shui Rua said with a strange look in her eyes. Oh. Until now, the blue-robed elder's eyes showed a hint of surprise. But that was it. 6th elder, he has a 5th-order demonic beast. Mo Tao seemed to want to confirm Yiguchin's situation and said. Is that so? The blue-robed elder looked at Yiguchin, his eyes still indifferent. Although some of the surrounding water tribe people were surprised. But the blue-robed elder was a spiritual bridge of heaven and earth existence. A 5th-order demonic beast was nothing in his eyes. Seeing this, Shui Rua had a strange look in her eyes and couldn't help but ask, Lord Elder, aren't you here to welcome Big Brother Dugu? I don't know who he is. All of you move aside and don't hinder me from receiving the guest. The blue-robed elder scolded and frowned slightly. Shui Rua's face turned ugly when she heard this. The rest of the water tribe people also looked at Shui Rua and Yiguchin with slight ridicule. This was a big loss of face. Mo Tao's heart was bursting with joy. It turned out that the 6 elders weren't waiting for Dugu Wubai. He had been on tenterhooks earlier, fearing that Dugu Wubai might have some special background. Now that he thought about it, he was just scaring himself. As for the rank 5 demonic beast, it was probably just a coincidence that he obtained it. When he thought of this, Mo Tao couldn't help but straighten his back a little, and a relieved smile appeared on his face. Shui Ruo and the others, on the other hand, leaned to the side in embarrassment. Her small face revealed a trace of embarrassment. Being reprimanded like this, Shui Ruo's eyes became slightly misty. Hee, Shui Ruo, I've already said it. What kind of background could he possibly have? The 6 clan elders are all big shots. How could they possibly be here to welcome him? Mo Tao's tone carried a hint of ridicule. After knowing that Yi Guqin had no background, Mo Tao was no longer afraid of him. Even if there was a 5th-rank demonic beast, would it dare to attack him in the territory of the Water Tribe? Mo Tao wanted to laugh. He felt that he had placed too much importance on this wandering barbarian. But Shui Ruo gritted her teeth, wanting to argue. This was because Yi Guqin had always been very mysterious in her heart, as if he was shrouded in a layer of fog. But now, he was actually just an ordinary person. This caused Shui Ruo to feel slightly disappointed. Yi Guqin looked on indifferently. He didn't care about the so-called face. He only came to the Water Tribe to find the Dragon Lady. Thinking of this, Yi Guqin quietly took out the communication jade slip left behind by the Dragon Lady and sent out the message of his arrival. Presumably, the Dragon Lady would arrive soon. Yi Guqin stood there quietly and waited. Mo Tao, Shui Ruo, and the others didn't leave either. They all wanted to know who the 6 clan elders were. Not long after, a group of people came from afar. The leader was a pot-bellied middle-aged man wearing an exquisite beast skin. When the blue-robed old man saw the middle-aged man, he cupped his hands and said, "This old man is Yu Lang. Greetings to the Tuoba family's envoy." It's the Tuoba family's envoy. Mo Tao and Shui Ruo were surprised. In the barbarian tribe, the 5 Elements Temple was at the top. Below the 5 Elements Temple were the Tuoba and Mulan ancient barbarian families. Below them were the 5 Elements Barbarian Tribe, Wind Tribe, Lightning Tribe, and so on. Finally, there were the Soul Barbarian Tribe, Beast Barbarian Tribe, and other second-tier tribes. It could be said that the Tuoba family had an extraordinary status in the barbarian tribe. Even the Water Tribe had to treat them with respect. Elder Yu Lang, it's been a while. The Tuoba envoy smiled faintly. Although his cultivation was only at the life and death threshold and couldn't be compared to Yu Lang, he was still the Tuoba family's envoy. Even Yu Lang didn't put on airs. The Tuoba family's arrival brings light to the Water Tribe's humble dwelling. Yu Lang smiled. Our Tuoba family is very sincere this time. In a few days, our young master Tuoba Lai will come to ask for the Dragon Lady's hand in marriage. The envoy said. What? Tuoba Lai is coming? He's the Tuoba family's strongest saint son other than Tuoba Shang. I heard that he's also a powerful Triple Crown champion. The envoy's words made the Water Tribe's people exclaim in surprise. Tuoba Lai didn't participate in the battle in the ancient desolate Forbidden Zone, but it didn't mean that he wasn't strong. Yu Lang's expression was a little awkward. He knew that the Dragon Lady wouldn't want to marry the Tuoba family's saint son. The Dragon Lady is the apple of our eye. Our Mulan family also wants to take her away. At that moment, another group of people walked over from afar. It's the Mulan family. The Water Tribe's people were a little confused. This was getting interesting. The envoy of the Mulan family glanced at the envoy of the Tuoba family coldly. The Tuoba family wanted to use this opportunity to rope in the Water Tribe. How could the Mulan family just sit back and watch? Our saint's son Murangxiu of the Mulan family will be coming soon. The envoy of the Mulan family said. It's Murangxiu. He's also a famous saint of the Mulan family. Some of the Water Tribe's people sighed. Both Tuoba Lai and Murangxiu were top-notch saints. Yu Lang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. It was difficult for him to be sandwiched between the 2 great barbarian families. Although the Water Tribe was a peacemaker, they didn't want to get involved in the battle between the 2 great families. Since that's the case, let the Dragon Lady choose herself. Will she choose our young master Tuoba or your Muranxiu? The envoy of the Tuoba family said arrogantly. The two great barbarian families were at loggerheads. The water tribe's people didn't dare to say anything. Shui Rua, let's go. The matters of these big shots have nothing to do with us. Mo Tao waved his hand. Shui Rua's face turned gloomy. She nodded but realized that Yi Guqin was still standing at the same spot. Mo Tao frowned and said, "Why are you still standing here? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Brother Dugu, let's go." Shui Rua said. "I'm waiting for someone." Yi Guqin said calmly. "Waiting for someone? Who are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the honorable dragon lady in your heart?" Mo Tao shook his head and sneered. Shui Rua sighed. She thought that Dugu Wubai was mysterious. However, she didn't think that he could win the dragon lady's heart over Tuoba Lai and Muranxiu. However, Shui Rua didn't say anything. She had already made Yi Guqin lose face by speaking rashly just now. So, she wouldn't say anything now. She didn't want to hurt this youngster's self-esteem. Yi Guqin didn't say anything. At this moment, a beautiful figure floated over from the depths of Yunmeng Lake. She looked like a fairy. She was wearing a long blue dress that outlined her slender figure. Her skin was crystal clear as if it was carved out of ice. Between her aqua blue hair, there were two small and exquisite jade-like horns, giving this woman a mysterious and noble feeling. She was the Dragon Lady. "It's the Dragon Lady. The Dragon Lady is here!" All the members of the water tribe exclaimed. Their eyes sparkled as they bowed. Even the Yulang race elder nodded his head. "Hee, it seems that the Dragon Lady is here to see me." Messenger Tuoba laughed proudly and puffed out his chest. Mo Tao and Shui Rua also bowed to greet her. Mo Tao saw Yi Guqin from the corner of his eye and scolded softly, "What are you doing? Why aren't you bowing to greet the Dragon Lady?" Yi Guqin didn't seem to have heard him. He looked at the lady who floated over. After returning to the water tribe, the Dragon Lady seemed to have regained her honorable temperament. It was simply unbelievable. Previously, it was also this dragon girl who had volunteered to be his maidservant. Now, the maid was finally here. The dragon girl looked straight ahead. She did not even look at messengers Tuoba and the others. Instead, she went straight to Yi Guqin. She pursed her lips and smiled charmingly. "Why are you only here now, Mr. Dugu?" Her voice was soft and gentle, making one's heart flutter. However, as soon as these words were spoken, everyone around was dumbstruck. Mo Tao, who was beside Yi Guqin, froze on the spot as if he was struck by lightning. He seemed to have lost his mind, as if he had lost his soul. Chapter 530. The Dragon Lady had the bloodline of the water dragon. She was the most respected saintess of the water tribe. Regardless of bloodline, strength, or temperament, the Dragon Lady was one of the best in the entire barbarian tribe. That was why the Tuoba family and Mulan family had come to propose marriage. Of course, there might be a deeper meaning behind it. But the Dragon Lady's excellence was undeniable. The dragon girl, who had always been high and mighty among the water tribe and was like an ice goddess, was actually treating an ordinary berserker boy with such an attitude and tone. It was simply unbelievable. What was even more puzzling was the hidden bitterness in the Dragon Lady's words. It was as if she had been abandoned and had stayed in the house for a long time. Mo Tao could not believe what he was seeing. He had even mocked Yi Guqin, asking if he was waiting for the Dragon Lady. Now, the Dragon Lady had really appeared. Judging from her tone, she was here to look for Yi Guqin. Shui Rua widened her eyes and looked at the youth beside her. She had blamed herself for hurting Yi Guqin's pride. Now that she thought about it, Shui Rua's cheeks were burning. Heh! Seeing the Dragon Lady's attitude, Yi Guqin smiled faintly. How could he not know the Dragon Lady's impatience? The Dragon Lady rolled her eyes coquettishly at Yi Guqin. Her beautiful blue eyes were filled with resentment. Her serene blue serpent totem still needed Yiguchin's Ting snake totem to evolve. And Yiguchin had said that he would come to the water tribe. But she did not expect it to take so long. Luckily, the dragon lady was patient. Otherwise, she would have to look for Yiguchin personally. Since you're here, follow me in. The dragon lady did not avoid him. She walked up lightly and pulled Yiguchin's sleeve while Mo Tao was in a daze. Yiguchin nodded faintly. That's impossible. How could you know the dragon lady? Mo Tao could not figure it out. He could not help but ask. Yiguchin frowned slightly. Seeing this, the dragon maiden's face turned cold. Other people did not know, but Dragon Lady knew that Yiguchin had another identity. He was the five-crown king who had swept everyone. He was not someone anyone could humiliate. In addition, the ancestral totem was very useful for the dragon girl's transformation, so she couldn't ignore it. Who are you? How dare you act so impudently here? The dragoness was quite imposing when she was angry. With a gentle wave of her jade-like hand, she swept Mo Tao away like trash. Pooh! Mo Tao let out a shrill cry as he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his figure was blasted flying over 30 m. A few of his breastbones were broken, and he collapsed on the ground like a dead dog. The surrounding members of the water tribe shrank their necks. Dragon Lady had a gentle temperament. Normally, she would not get angry, and she would not be so heavy-handed. Clearly, that ordinary youth had an extraordinary place in the dragoness's heart. This is... Dragoness turned to look at Shui Rua, who was beside Yiguchin. Shui Rua's eyes trembled slightly and her cheeks turned red. There was both nervousness and excitement. This was the first time she was facing the saintess of her tribe. A friend I met on the way. Not bad, Yiguchin said casually. He did not praise her, nor did he specifically say anything. He believed that the dragoness would understand. Dragon Lady nodded slightly and said with a smile like a spring breeze, "You can follow me from now on." Really? Thank you, Your Highness. Shui Rua was so excited that she jumped 3 feet high. If she followed the saintess, her status in the water tribe would be different in the future. Shui Rua's eyes sparkled as she looked at Yiguchin. She knew that Dragon Lady's actions were to express her goodwill to Dugu Wubai. Thank you, Brother Dugu, Shui Rua said sweetly. Yiguchin smiled and nodded. Shui Rua did not know that the benefits of being taken care of by Yiguchin were not just a little bit. Just as Yiguchin was about to follow Dragon Lady into Yunmeng Lake, a voice that was suppressing his anger came out from Envoy Tuoba's mouth. Your Highness, young Master Tuoba has taken a fancy to you now. It's better for you to keep yourself clean. Envoy Tuoba was a little embarrassed. He thought that Dragon Lady was here to welcome him when she appeared. In the end, she was here to welcome a young man. She did not even care about Envoy Tuoba. How could Envoy Tuoba hide his face? On the other side, the envoy of the Muron family also looked at Yiguchin in surprise. He could not understand how Dragon Lady was related to this ordinary young man. Dragon Lady's face turned cold when she heard what Envoy Tuoba said. She said calmly, "Firstly, I don't belong to young Master Tuoba Lai. Secondly, if you want to ask for my hand in marriage, it's fine. In 3 days, I'll set up an arena in the water tribe to find my groom. Whoever wins first place will be qualified to be my husband." Dragon Lady said. Her words caused an uproar. Many of the water tribe members did not know about it. Only Elder Yulang smiled bitterly. As one of the 6 elders, he naturally knew about it. This was the only way that the water tribe could think of to not offend the 2 barbarian families. Envoy Tuoba's face changed slightly when he heard that. However, he still smiled and said, "Haha, Your Highness, why do you have to do this? Is there anyone who can defeat young Master Tuoba in the arena?" Many of the water tribe members agreed with Envoy Tuoba's words. Tuoba Lai was second only to Tuoba Shang in the Tuoba family. Although there were a few saints in the water tribe, it would be difficult for them to compete with Tuoba Lai. So what if he's Tuoba Lai? Do you think young Master Mulancio is afraid of him? The envoy of the Muron family sneered. Mulancio's reputation was not weak either. The crowd could tell that the groom contest was only a show. In the end, only Tuoba Lai and Mulancio were qualified to compete. When they thought that the honorable saintess of their tribe was going to be taken away by one of these two, some of the water tribe men felt uncomfortable. The dragon lady's face darkened when she heard what they said. For some reason, her beautiful eyes turned to Yiguchin. Yiguchin was stunned. He felt that he had come at the wrong time. Can I leave first? Yiguchin joked. No, please come in, young Master Dugu. The dragon lady smiled. Her smile was charming. However, why did it feel so fake? The dragon lady left envoy Tuoba and the others behind and led Yiguchin and the divine eagle into Yunmeng Lake. Yu Lang smiled bitterly. He did not expect that the young man he had neglected was related to the dragon lady. Envoys, please stay in Yunmeng Lake for the time being. I will treat you well. Yu Lang cupped his hands. My young master will be here in 3 days. Envoy Tuoba snorted. Envoy Mulancio also said that the Mulancio religious order would be here in 3 days. Then, Yu Lang led the two families into Yunmeng Lake. Shui Ruo was surrounded by water tribe people. They were all asking about Yiguchin. Shui Ruo, who is that young man? That's right, that's right. His looks are very ordinary, and he doesn't have any cultivation aura. For Her Highness to treat him like this, just who is he? The people around them were chattering away. Vaguely, they were trying to please Shui Ruo. Shui Ruo could not stop giggling. She felt that she had never been so popular before. As for Mo Tao, he stood alone in the distance. He was struggling to stand up. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His body was covered in dust. Several of his ribs were broken and aching. From time to time, some water tribe people would cast a playful look at him. Shui Ruo and Mo Tao also came with Yiguchin, but the result was completely different. Obviously, Mo Tao had offended someone he should not have. I hate him. Mo Tao trembled. He was very sad. A kind of hatred for Yiguchin, mixed with regret, gushed out from his heart. However, it was not hard to imagine that he had made the dragon lady unhappy. In the future, his position in the water tribe would be worrying. Chapter 531. Yiguchin followed Dragon Lady into Yunmeng Lake. As the surrounding thick fog dispersed, the scenery within the Cloud Dream Swamp also came into view. The lake was shimmering and the water was misty. It was like a paradise. It matched the calm attitude of the water people. Dragon Lady brought Yiguchin in. There were many people from the water tribe around. When they saw Yiguchin walking side by side with the Dragon Lady, they were surprised. They had never seen Dragon Lady so close to a man. Even when facing the water people's saint, who was on the same level as her, Dragon Lady was never polite. Yiguchin, what do you think of the water people's base? Dragon Lady smiled. Although there were people around them, they were quite a distance away. Hence, Dragon Lady called out Yiguchin's real name. Not bad. Paradise on earth. Yiguchin said. Yeah. It would be a pity if we were dragged into the war. Dragon Lady sighed. Looks like you're under a lot of pressure. Yiguchin said thoughtfully. The Dragon Lady smiled bitterly and touched her forehead. Indeed, the Tuoba family has always wanted us to leave the peace party and join their war party. Do you remember Kue Shue Inji? That saint who suddenly rose up was supported by the Tuoba family. I see. Yiguchin understood. The supporter behind Kue Shue Inji was the Tuoba family. It was so that after Kue Shue Inji took over, she could lead the water race to join the war faction. Dragon Lady frowned and said, the Tuoba family had placed all their hopes on Kue Shui Inji, but after she died in the forbidden region of desolation, the Tuoba family started to force us to marry them. However, we couldn't reject them. Yiguchin nodded. Although the water people was strong, they were not as strong as the barbarian family. The Tuoba family wanted to unite with the Dragon Lady through marriage and pull the water race into the pro-war camp. That's why I had to do this. Dragon Lady shook her head and smiled bitterly. Yiguchin's eyes flickered slightly. When Dragon Lady saw this, she bit her lip. It was hard for her to speak, but she still said, Dragon Lady knows that I already owe you a lot. But this time, I hope you can help me. When Dragon Lady said this, her cheeks were a little hot. Her life was saved by Yiguchin, and she wanted Yiguchin to transform her totem. Now, they even needed Yiguchin's help for the groom contest. Dragon Lady didn't know what to say, but there was nothing she could do. Although there were saints in the water tribe who were in love with her, they were obviously not as good as Tuoba Lai. Although Murexiu was strong, Dragoness did not feel anything for her. Yiguchin was not surprised. Dragon Lady was his friend, so he could help her. However, Yiguchin did not forget his purpose in coming to the land of 5 elements. If I want to help you, that's not a problem. However, I also have something that I need your help with, Yiguchin said solemnly. What is it? Dragon Lady's eyes brightened. I want to enter the 5 elements temple, Yiguchin said in a low voice. When Dragon Lady heard this, her face changed. Her beautiful eyes kept changing. The 5 Elements Temple was the barbarians' holy land. Even saints and saintesses did not have the chance to enter. Moreover, if Yiguchin, an outsider, was to enter the 5 Elements Temple, if he was discovered, the crime would not be a small one. If she accepted it, Dragon Lady would have to take a huge risk. Seeing Dragon Lady's uncertain expression, Yiguchin looked at her calmly. He felt that he had not misjudged her. After a while, Dragon Lady's full breasts moved up and down. She sighed deeply and said, Yiguchin, your request is really difficult. However, I agree. Yiguchin smiled. So, you must win the groom contest, Dragon Lady said confidently. Sure. However, my identity as 5 Crown King cannot be revealed for now. Is there any way to conceal it? Yiguchin frowned slightly. In the land of the barbarians, he could not use his sword moves. It would expose his identity as an outsider. As for 5 Crown King's totem, he could not reveal it either. This way, he had very few tricks up his sleeves. No problem. My sea tribe has a wave illusion secret technique that can conceal your moves. It can even change the appearance and aura of your totem. I will teach it to you later, Dragon Lady said. Yiguchin nodded. This way, he had nothing to worry about. Just as Yiguchin and Dragon Lady were talking, a figure appeared not far away. Dragon Lady, who is this? He looks very unfamiliar. It was a young man in a blue shirt. He looked feminine and handsome. The water-type totem power around him surged. To be able to speak to Dragon Lady as an equal, he was obviously a saint. Seeing this, Dragon Lady frowned slightly and said, he is just a friend of mine. Oh, just a friend? The young man in a blue shirt squinted his eyes and looked at Yiguchin. When he felt that there was no aura of cultivation around him, the young man became less cautious. Dragon Lady, in the groom contest in 3 days, I will definitely get first place. I will help you fend off Tuoba Lai and Murexiu. The young man in a blue shirt looked at Dragon Lady with a burning gaze. Although their positions were similar, Dragon Lady was still a flower in his eyes. He could only look at her from afar. And this time, the groom selection arena was his last chance. Let's talk about it when you have the ability, Dragon Lady said calmly. She obviously did not like the young man in a blue shirt. The young man in a blue shirt smiled and said, Dragon Lady, in the younger generation of the Sea tribe, almost no one can defeat me. I don't believe that I will lose to Tuoba Lai and Murexiu. Dragon Lady shook her head and did not say anything else. She brought Yiguchin to her residence. Her Highness the Dragon Lady brought a man to her place. Some of the surrounding aquarium people were stunned. The young man in a blue shirt's face darkened. He said calmly, "Some people better not overestimate themselves." Although he did not say it explicitly, everyone knew that he was referring to the young man beside Dragon Lady. Yiguchin ignored him as if he did not hear anything. The young man in a blue shirt's face darkened as he watched them leave. Sorry for making a fool of himself. His name is Stormy Wave Saint. Among the saints of the sea tribe, he is the strongest. Hence, he is a little arrogant and thinks that he is extraordinary, Dragon Lady said with a sigh. As the Five-Crown King, Yiguchin did not usually show his strength. He even hid with the blood armor. As for Stormy Wave Saint, although he was strong in the sea tribe, he was barely strong in the barbarian tribe. However, he thought that he was very strong. Hence, he always treated Dragon Lady as his exclusive property and did not allow others to get close to her. In comparison, Yiguchin was the one who was truly reserved and unfazed by favor or humiliation. Yiguchin did not mind. He did not care about Stormy Wave Saint. Let's go to my residence. I will teach you the wave illusion secret skill, Dragon Lady said. Her fair face blushed. After all, it was her first time bringing a man into her residence. It was a little awkward. Yiguchin nodded calmly. Chapter 532. The Dragon Lady's residence was located in the depths of Yunmeng Lake. The lake was as clear as a mirror and as transparent as a crystal. There were spiritual birds and beasts in the surroundings. It was very peaceful. Jie, Grandpa Condor sees a beauty. The divine eagle, who was standing on Yiguchen's shoulder, saw the elegant white crane by the lake. Its eyes turned red. Like a hungry wolf that saw a lamb, it flapped its wings and rushed towards the crane. Yiguchen followed the Dragon Lady to the loft by the lake. A warm breeze blew through the canopy, bringing with it a woman's fragrance. The Dragon Lady was slightly embarrassed, but she still calmed down and said, "The wave illusion secret art is a secret art of the water tribe. It's not easy to cultivate. You only have 3 days." The Dragon Lady hesitated. She was afraid that Yiguchen wouldn't be able to use the wave illusion secret art in 3 days. "It's okay," Yiguchen said casually. He had cultivated many secret arts, including the soul-devouring secret art, the soul-burning secret art, and the soul-tempering secret art. They all had their strengths. The wave illusion secret art wasn't easy to cultivate, but it wasn't difficult for Yiguchen. The Dragon Lady shook her head at Yiguchen's casual attitude. She believed that when Yiguchen really came in contact with the wave illusion secret art, he would know how hard it was to learn it. The Dragon Lady found it hard to believe that Yiguchen could learn it in 3 days. Even the Dragon Lady had to spend half a month before she was able to enter the sect. Next, the Dragon Lady taught the wave illusion secret art to Yiguchen. However, in the Water Tribe, the news that the Dragon Lady brought Yiguchen into her residence had spread like wildfire. The Stormy Wave Saint was naturally gloomy. At the same time, the Tuoba family's messenger didn't look too good either. He could imagine how the young man beside the Dragon Lady would be treated when Tuoba Lai arrived in 3 days. Shui Rua had a worried look on her face. She didn't know what Yiguchen was capable of. She thought that Yiguchen could only rely on the divine condor. While Mo Tao was jealous, he was also cold. He knew that with Tuoba Lai's character, he would never allow anyone else to touch the woman he fancied. Dugu Wubai, let's see how you'll endure Tuoba Lai's wrath in 3 days. Mo Tao said through gritted teeth. Right now, he was in a rather pitiful state in the water race. He wasn't liked at all. Time flowed by, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. I wonder how Yiguchen's training is going. Dragon Lady was in another room in the attic. Today was already the 3rd day. If Yiguchin still hadn't mastered the secret art of wave illusion, then the means he could use were undoubtedly very few. Although Tuoba Lai was not as good as Tuoba Shang, he was still one of the best among the saint children. If Yiguchin could not use any tricks, it would be very dangerous to deal with him. After thinking about it for a while, Dragon Lady went to Yiguchin's practice room. When he opened the door, he was surprised to find Yiguchin sitting cross-legged on the floor. His brows were furrowed as if he was thinking about something. Seeing this, Dragon Lady sighed in her heart. As she expected, Yiguchin was stumped by the secret art of wave illusion. However, no matter how talented Yiguchin was, how could he master such a complicated secret art in 3 days? Yiguchin, if you really can't do it, then don't force yourself. Just act according to the circumstances, Dragon Lady advised. Yiguchin shook his head and sighed, unfortunately, this is also something that can't be forced. After all, there are only 3 days. Dragon Lady advised. Unfortunately, it's not complete. There are still some flaws. Yiguchin furrowed his brows as if he wasn't satisfied. It's nothing. Wait a minute, what did you say? Dragon Lady nodded first. However, her delicate face suddenly froze. Her beautiful eyes widened as she stared blankly at Yiguchin. Yiguchin did not speak. He slowly raised his hand and directly activated the Azure Dragon Totem in his body. However, this Azure Dragon Totem actually faintly transformed into another supreme totem, the Azure Spirit Dragon Python, along with the ripples of the water. This way, Yiguchin's progenitor totem would not be exposed. Dragon Lady's mouth was wide open as her breasts rose and fell. You're a cultivation monster. Dragon Lady said through gritted teeth. Back when she cultivated the secret art of wave illusion, it took her half a month to master it. However, Yiguchin had only cultivated it for 3 days. He was only a short distance away from complete mastery. Such terrifying cultivation perception made Dragoness envious and jealous. Although it's not complete mastery, it's barely enough, Yiguchin said. His comprehension was not only limited to Sword Dao. Furthermore, he had consumed an epiphany leaf in the past 3 days. Such speed was nothing. Dragon Lady rolled her eyes at Yiguchin again. She suppressed the ripples in her heart and said, "It's about time. The saints of the 2 clans should be here. Let's go to the battle arena." Yiguchin nodded. At this moment, in the depths of Yunmeng Lake, there was a huge lake. In the middle of the lake, there was an island in the lake. Fences were built on the island to form a huge battle arena. This was the largest battle arena of the Water People. It was not open on normal days. It would only be open during some important festivals or when the saints were battling. Today, the surroundings of the battle arena were bustling with noise. Almost 80 to 90% of the members of the Water Tribe had come to the battle arena to watch the betrothal contest. After all, the groom contest's target was the famous Dragon Lady. Her strength and appearance were superior. She was also the goddess in the hearts of many Water People men. On the high platform of the battle arena, the envoys of the Tuoba and Mulan clans were already seated. There were also a few elders of the Water People and the clan leader of the Water People, Shui Jinglan. The saints will be here soon. There is no suspense in today's battle, Envoy Tuoba said proudly. That's not necessarily true, Envoy Mulan said coldly. Shui Jinglan, the clan leader of the Water People, looked straight ahead and did not get involved in the battle between the 2 clans. The only thing he sighed about was the Dragon Lady. She had to choose someone she did not like. Shui Ruo and Mo Tao had arrived at the viewing platform. However, they did not come together. Shui Ruo looked worried. Apparently, she was worried about Yiguchin. Mo Tao's eyes were filled with coldness. He wanted to see how badly Yiguchin would be defeated by Tuoba Lai. Not long after, a figure with a pair of wings on his back soared into the sky. His aura was extremely arrogant. He fell from the sky and landed in the battle arena. In the midst of the smoke, a burly man with a tough face appeared. The pair of wings on his back were like the wings of a dragon. They shone with a cold light. Young Master Tuoba. Envoy Tuoba quickly stood up and cupped his hands. Is that Tuoba Lai? Looking at the burly man who looked like a human-shaped iron tower, many members of the water people were shocked. It was rumored that Tuoba Lai was second only to the quadruple crown king, Tuoba Shang. It seemed like he lived up to his reputation. Just as everyone was shocked by Tuoba Lai's actions, a faint voice with a hint of mockery said, Tuoba Lai, you really like to show off. A figure walked into the battle arena. If he did not speak, no one would have noticed him. It was a young man with a delicate and pretty face. He looked a little ordinary, but the aura he faintly exuded made it clear that he was not ordinary. Young Master Mulanxiu. Envoy Mulan cupped his hands as well. Mulanxiu is here too. Mulanxiu's arrival caused an uproar again. In the preparation area, the stormy wave saint's expression was cold and stern with a look of determination. Today, neither Tuoba Lai nor Mulanxiu can stop me. The dragon lady is only worthy of me. Just as the smell of gunpowder in the battle arena intensified. Not far away, the dragon lady and Yiguchen finally arrived side by side. Chapter 533. The dragon lady was noble and elegant. Her long blue hair swayed in the wind. The pair of jade horns on her fair forehead not only ruined her beauty, but also added a strange sense of beauty to her. Compared to the dragon lady, Yiguchen, who had disguised himself, looked very ordinary. He had bronze skin and an ordinary appearance. He did not have the aura of an expert. He was the kind of person who would not be recognized in a crowd. The two of them walked side by side. It was really out of place. I heard that the young man is called Duga Wubai. I wonder how he is related to the dragon lady. That's right. There is nothing attractive about him. He has neither the looks nor the power. The people of the water tribe were very critical of the relationship between the dragon lady and Yiguchen. Many people were whispering to each other. However, they did not talk loudly because of the dragon lady. After the dragon lady and Yiguchen appeared, Tuoba Lai's eyes immediately focused on the dragon lady. Although the Tuoba family had planned to ask for the dragon lady's hand in marriage. However, Tuoba Lai had to admit that the dragon lady was qualified to be his wife. Looking at the dragon lady's slender waist and beautiful figure, Tuoba Lai's eyes were burning with desire. He really wanted to see how alluring this woman with the water dragon bloodline, who had a noble temperament, would be when she was pleasuring him under his body. However, in Tuoba Lai's eyes, she was an eyesore. Dragon lady, I don't like this person. Tuoba Lai said in a low voice. The dragon lady did not even look at Tuoba Lai. She brought Yiguchen to a seat in the stands. You. Tuoba Lai frowned. He looked at Yiguchen and said coldly, if you know what's good for you, leave the dragon lady. Yiguchen did not react. He did not even look at Tuoba Lai. This caused everyone in the battle arena to be stunned. It was normal for the dragon lady to ignore Tuoba Lai. After all, they might be family in the future. But Yiguchen, who looked so ordinary, dared to ignore Tuoba Lai. Gazes of sympathy and pity were directed at Yiguchen, and they all shook their heads. It was understandable that a young man would want to perform in front of a beauty. However, it would be foolish to provoke someone who shouldn't be provoked because of this. Obviously, Yiguchen's action of ignoring the Aqua clan was foolish. Mo Tao, who was in the crowd, couldn't suppress the smile on his face. He couldn't wait to see Yiguchen become even more miserable than him. Shui Rua's small face was filled with worry. Obviously, she was worried about Yiguchen's safety. However, Yiguchen wasn't interested in talking to Tuoba Lai. He could even defeat the quadruple crown king, Tuoba Shang. A mere Tuoba Lai could not pique his interest. However, in the eyes of outsiders, it seemed a little condescending. This person is interesting. Mulanxiu chuckled and looked at Yiguchen with interest. Although Yiguchin couldn't attract his attention, it was good that he could provoke Tuoba Lai. Mulanshio didn't come here because he liked the dragon lady and wanted to marry her. He just wanted to stop Tuoba Lai from marrying her. Tuoba Lai was filled with anger, but he didn't act out. However, he swore that he would make Yiguchin pay the price after the competition ended. Next, it was the Aqua clan leader's speech. The dragon lady's face was calm, but her jade-like hands were clenched tightly. Although Yiguchin, the sword master and quintuple crown king, was present, this was an important matter that concerned her marriage. If Tuoba Lai really won, the dragon lady would have to marry Tuoba Lai even if she didn't want to. The Tuoba clan's prestige couldn't be challenged, even by the Aqua clan. With me around, it's fine. Yiguchin said calmly, as if he had seen the nervousness in the dragon girl's eyes. His words were calm, but there was an unquestionable tone to them. Looking at Yiguchin's ordinary face after his disguise, the dragon lady understood. What was so attractive about Yiguchin? It was his self-restraint, confidence, and calmness. He could also make the people around him feel extremely at ease. It had to be said that as long as one was a girl, they would be greedy for such a feeling of security. It was as if Yiguchin was the most reliable support. The competition for the groom had officially begun. Other than Tuoba Lai and Mulanshio, some of the Aqua clan's saints would also participate. After all, the Aqua clan's saints admired the dragon lady a lot. How could they watch her go to an outsider? Who wants to fight? Come on. Tuoba Lai stood in the center of the battle arena. His tower-like figure gave everyone a strong sense of oppression. Mulanshio smiled faintly and didn't make a move. He also wanted to see how powerful this Tuoba clan, who was second only to Tuoba Shang, was. I'll go first. Young Master Tuoba, please enlighten me. A Aqua clan saint stepped into the battle arena. The Cloud River Saint is making a move. He's one of the top 3 saints in the Aqua clan. Some of the Aqua clan members exclaimed. Humph. Make your move. Tuoba Lai didn't even look at him. The Cloud River Saint's eyes darkened. No matter what, he was still a saint. How could he be ignored like this? Demonic ice snapping turtle. The Yunhe saint did not hold back at all. He immediately summoned his supreme totem. A totem that looked like a black tortoise appeared. The only difference was that the tortoise shell had icicle-like thorns on it. Ice Edge Seal. The Cloud River Saint formed a seal with both hands. Along with the supreme totem's power, he attacked with all his might towards Tuoba Lai. Tuoba Lai raised his eyelids slightly. He didn't take out his own totem. Instead, he stomped on the ground with one foot, and a thick murderous aura spread out. Without any moves, Tuoba Lai threw out a punch. Along with the black murderous aura, it collided with the Cloud River Saint. Bang! A huge shockwave spread out in the battle arena. Pfft! The sound of blood being spat out could be heard. Everyone in the arena saw the Cloud River Saint's body fly out like a broken sandbag. He landed heavily on the ground, and even his chest caved in. If they weren't in the Water Tribe, Tuoba Lai would have to give them face. If the punch landed, the Cloud River Saint would probably be on the verge of death. One punch. It was just a single punch. Some of the elders of the Water Tribe didn't look too good. The Cloud River Saint was one of the top 3 saints in the Water Tribe. How could he not be able to withstand one punch from Tuoba Lai? The leader of the Water Tribe, Shui Jinglan, also looked slightly gloomy. Ha, as expected of young Master Tuoba. Envoy Tuoba laughed happily. On the other side, Murengxiu's face also turned serious. Tuoba Lai's strength had exceeded her expectations. The dragon lady was nervous. She gritted her teeth and said, that was Tuoba Lai's signature body refining technique, the demonic ape transformation. He didn't even use it fully, and the Cloud River Saint was defeated. She looked at Yiguchin uneasily. However, she saw that Yiguchin was resting with his eyes closed, as if he didn't care at all. The dragon lady smiled bitterly. As expected of the Five-Crown King. He was so confident. Chapter 534. Tuoba Lai's punch sent the Cloud River Saint Sun flying. The atmosphere in the entire battle arena became silent. The holy sons of the Water Tribe, who had been eager to give it a try, were all silenced at this moment. It was as if an invisible hand was choking their necks, and they didn't dare to make a sound. The Yunha's sacred prince was one of the top 3 sacred princes of the Water Tribe. Even such a saint's son was so embarrassed by Tuoba Lai's punch. What could the rest of the saints of the Water Tribe do? As for the Stormy Wave Saint's son, who was full of confidence and arrogance, he was looking at Tuoba Lai in shock. Tuoba Lai's performance was far beyond his expectations. However, his pride did not allow him to admit this fact. Hence, his expression kept changing. No, who am I? The Cloud River Saint's son is far from me. I might not be weaker than him, the Stormy Wave Saint's son thought. He looked at the Dragon Lady. However, what made the Stormy Wave Saint's son's expression freeze was that the Dragon Lady kept looking at Yiguchen. This made the Stormy Wave Saint's son angry, drowning his rationality. Ha, looks like no one in the Water Tribe is a match for you. Tuoba Lai looked around. When the Water Tribe's holy sons made eye contact with him, they looked away as if they were retreating. Judging by the strength that Tuoba Lai had displayed, they would be courting death if they went up. The leader of the Water Tribe kept a straight face. He did not expect the Water Tribe saints to be so weak that they did not even have the courage to go up. Just as the leader of the Water Tribe was feeling disappointed, a figure stepped onto the arena. It was the Stormy Wave Saint's son. The leader of the Water Tribe finally looked better. He said, "The Stormy Wave Saint's son is the strongest among the Water Tribe saints. I think there will be an exciting battle." "Oh, is that so?" Envoy Tuoba smiled playfully and did not say anything else. The strength that Tuoba Lai had just displayed had intimidated everyone present. However, was that really his full strength? "Oh, you have some courage, but you are still ignorant." Tuoba Lai's expression did not change much when he saw the Stormy Wave Saint's son. He looked at him as if he was looking at an ant. The turbulent Wave Saint gritted his teeth and glanced at the dragoness from the corner of his eye. The Dragon Lady finally glanced at him indifferently, but then she quickly withdrew her gaze with waning interest. Obviously, he didn't think that the Stormy Wave Saint's son could win. "Dragoness, I will let you know that the lowly young man beside you is nothing compared to me." The Stormy Wave Saint did not hold back and directly unleashed his full strength. 2 supreme totems appeared on the surface of his body. The vigorous totem power turned into 2 water attribute totem spirits in the air. Their auras were extraordinary. As the number 1 saint of the Water Tribe, the Turbulent Wave Saint was also a double champion. Although he was conceited, he did have some strength. "Tuoba Lai, although you are strong, you will pay the price for underestimating me." After displaying his full strength, the Stormy Wave Saint's son also inexplicably gained some confidence. His eyes couldn't help but shine with divine light, and his aura was eye-catching. "You are indeed worthy of being the first holy son of the Sea Tribe." The clan leader of the Sea Tribe smiled in satisfaction. The Tuoba emissary sneered and did not say anything. He quietly waited to watch the show. "Interesting. In that case, I will also use my true strength." Seeing this, the totem power in Tuoba Lai's body surged. It surged out and turned into a pitch-black devil ape in the air. "It is one of Tuoba Lai's totems, the earth-shaking demonic ape," the Dragon Lady exclaimed. Yi Gu-chen raised his eyelids to take a look, but there was no reaction. However, everyone present was shocked. Tuoba Lai's performance earlier was extremely shocking. However, that was under the condition that he did not use his totem. Now that he had used his totem, how strong would Tuoba Lai be? When the earth-shaking demonic ape totem was used, Tuoba Lai's body also changed. His body grew taller. At the same time, black demonic runes appeared on the surface of his body. His body was surrounded by a black aura. This was Tuoba Lai's body refining skill, the demonic ape transformation. With the help of the earth-shaking demonic ape totem, the power of the demonic ape transformation was even stronger. Come on. Similarly, it was a simple punch. Tuoba Lai's punch carried an endless amount of evil aura. It was as if the earth-shaking demonic ape had punched at the same time. The entire battle arena rumbled and shook. Even the ground cracked. The earth-shaking demonic ape lived up to its name. The turbulent wave saint's face turned slightly pale. In fact, when Tuoba Lai used the earth-shaking demonic ape totem, the turbulent wave saint already had a bad feeling. However, he could only brace himself for now. Without holding back, the turbulent wave saint attacked with all his might and collided with Tuoba Lai. Boom! It was still an earth-shattering collision. Strong shockwaves swept out in all directions. Everyone in the battle arena was paying close attention to the battle. Puchi! The turbulent wave saint was in a worse state than the Yunhe saint. He flew backward and spat out blood. He felt as if his 2 rows of ribs had been shattered. He was in a sorry state as he was sent flying. Looking at the turbulent wave saint, who had been defeated by a single punch. The entire water tribe battle arena was silent. Tuoba Lai's strength had shocked them. Even Murangxiu's gaze turned solemn. On the viewing platform, the water tribe patriarch's expression froze. The smile on his face froze. He was extremely embarrassed. Hee. The Tuoba emissary did not say anything. However, his hee was enough to show his disdain for the water tribe's young saint. Sigh. The dragoness sighed softly. It was as if she had expected this. The dragoness had placed all her hopes on Yiguchen. As for the turbulent wave saint, this battle would probably allow him to recognize himself. In the battle arena, the turbulent wave saint stood up with difficulty. His mouth was full of blood. He was in a sorry state. Tuoba Lai no longer looked at him. Even the dragoness's expression did not change. It was as if she had expected this. This made the turbulent wave saint extremely sullen and angry. However, he could not say anything. Because this was the truth. However, the dragoness suddenly turned her face to Yiguchen. Her beautiful blue eyes were filled with hope. This scene made the turbulent wave saint feel extremely uncomfortable. Dragoness, although I lost miserably, do you think that guy can defeat Tuoba Lai? What a joke. The turbulent wave saint's heart turned cold. He walked down the stage with a sour face. Boring, really boring. Murangxiu, you go up. Let's finish this quickly so that I can marry my wife, said Tuoba Lai. This sentence made the faces of all the water tribe members turn ugly. The water tribe patriarch, Elder Yulang, and the others were also sullen. They were cursing the turbulent wave saint and the others in their hearts. Murangxiu sighed softly and landed on the stage. Since Brother Tuoba wants to fight, then let's do it, said Murangxiu calmly. No matter what, he was still the pride of the Murangxiu family. He was much stronger than the water tribe saint. There was no longer any contempt in Tuoba Lai's eyes. Although Murangxiu's strength was slightly inferior to Muranyu, he was not weak. He could not underestimate Murangxiu like he did the water tribe saint. Murangxiu took a deep breath. He must stop Tuoba Lai from marrying the dragoness. Judging from the current situation, he was the only one who could stop Tuoba Lai. As the 2 barbarian family saints fought, the atmosphere in the battle arena became heated. Chapter 535. The 2 barbarian families had extraordinary statuses. They even had seats in the 5 Elements Temple's Elder Council. The saints of the 2 families were obviously more powerful than the saints of the large families. Only powerful saints like Lei Jilyo, Golden Sun Saint, and Feng Xiaotian could compare with the barbarian family saints. Even the Dragon Lady would not be a match for Tuoba Lai and Murangxiu if her totem had not evolved. Now, the battle between the 2 barbarian family saints was extremely eye-catching. Even the Water Tribe members, who were a little disappointed, became spirited and focused on the battle. Only Shui Rua, the more she saw Tuoba Lai's strength, the more worried she became. Mo Tao's heart was filled with joy. If Tuoba Lai won, with his character, he would definitely attack Yi Gu Chen. Mo Tao could not wait to see what would happen next. In the battle arena, Tuoba Lai and Murengxiu stood facing each other. They did not have much to say. The two families had always been enemies. If it were not for the Five Elements Temple suppressing the two families, the Tuoba family would have started a civil war among the barbarians. Tuoba Lai attacked. His fists were shockingly sharp. His every move was like the birth of a demonic ape. It shook the heavens and the earth, and the ground of the entire arena was constantly shaking. Murengxiu did not dare to hold back. She took out her own totem. Her highest totem was the Wind Shadow Wolf. It was extremely fast. Wind Step. Murengxiu moved her body like a gust of wind. Her speed was extremely fast. Yi Gu Chen's interest was piqued as he cast his gaze over. Murengxiu's palm emitted a green glow. It turned into a sharp wind blade and slashed towards Tuoba Lai. Tuoba Lai let out a wild roar as a baleful aura surged from his body. A thin black armor vaguely formed on the surface of his body. At the same time, a layer of black bone armor also spread out on his fist, causing his fist to look like an iron fist. Boom! After the collision, Murengxiu retreated. She moved her feet slightly to disperse the shocking force. Don't fight him head-on. Murengxiu immediately made a judgment. After using the earth-shaking demonic ape totem, Tuoba Lai's strength was extremely shocking. If she fought him head-on, she would only be courting death. After making her decision, Murengxiu focused on moving around. With the Wind Shadow Wolf totem speed, the battle between her and Tuoba Lai was intense. Looking at the two people who were locked in battle, all the Water Tribe people in the arena held their breaths. Murengxiu was indeed the saint of the Muran family. The strength that he displayed far surpassed that of the Raging Waves Saint and the others. Everyone thought that Murengxiu might be able to fight with Tuoba Lai. Although Tuoba Lai is powerful, I'm afraid he can only bow before young Master Murengxiu, said the Murengxiu clan's emissary with a smile. It's too early to be happy. Envoy Tuoba snorted disdainfully. Murengxiu. Even in the Tuoba family, where geniuses gathered, Tuoba Lai's strength was considered to be at the top. Murengxiu. But Murengxiu, how can someone like you who only knows how to run and hide be worthy of the Dragon Lady? Tuoba Lai said coldly. Murengxiu was like a slippery eel. Murengxiu was so slippery that Tuoba Lai couldn't use his strength. As long as I can defeat you. Murengxiu laughed. He didn't care about the marriage with the Dragon Lady. He was only here to stop Tuoba Lai. After all, he couldn't ask Murengxiu to stop Tuoba Lai. Did he want Murengxiu to marry the Dragon Lady? Murengxiu, do you think you can restrain me with speed? Tuoba Lai said. The totem power in his body boiled again like a volcano erupting. A dragon roared and a totem spirit emerged from Tuoba Lai's body. It had a pair of wings on its back and was covered in red scales. It roared to the sky. It's Tuoba Lai's other supreme totem, the red flame pterosaur. The Dragon Lady said solemnly. Dragon wings, appear. Tuoba Lai roared. Flames surged behind his back and a pair of red dragon wings materialized. With a flap of the dragon wings, Tuoba Lai's body shot toward Murengxiu like red lightning. Not good. Murengxiu's eyelids twitched. Once again, he summoned his second supreme totem, the black armored beast. The Wind Shadow Wolf focused on speed while the black-scaled beast had unparalleled defense. Seeing this, Tuoba Lai's eyes revealed a hint of mockery. Devil Ape Transformation. Tuoba Lai's tower-like figure grew even taller. Black hair even appeared on the surface of his body. A ruthless scarlet color surged in his eyes. It was as if he had transformed into a human-shaped demonic ape. Devil Ape Bone-Shattering Fist. With the acceleration brought by the dragon wings and the immense strength of the earth-shaking Devil Ape, the Devil Ape Bone-Shattering Fist was extremely powerful. The air was compressed and a sharp sonic boom resounded throughout the arena. Immovable King Armor. Muranxiu saw this and activated the black-scaled beast's power. Vigorous totem power gathered in front of him and turned into a black shield that seemed to be able to defend against everything. Unfortunately, his opponent was Tuoba Lai. Boom! Tuoba Lai's fist landed on the immovable king armor. In an instant, Muranxiu felt a monstrous force pass through the immovable king armor and into his body. Pfft! Muranxiu spat out a mouthful of blood. Tuoba Lai shouted coldly. Break! Boom! The immovable king armor was broken. Then, the fist landed on Muranxiu's chest without any obstruction. Muranxiu spat out another mouthful of blood. He retreated quickly and landed outside the arena. The entire arena was dead silent. Tuoba Lai's fist had shocked them. Even Muranxiu from the Muranxiu family had been defeated by this fist. I lost. Muranxiu's face was pale and his body shook slightly. His situation was much better than the Stormy Wave Saint and the others. However, he was still severely injured and could not fight anymore. No one can stop Tuoba Lai anymore. Muranxiu's face was ghastly. He couldn't stop Tuoba Lai. When the two of them got married, the Tuoba family would be able to pull the Aqua tribe to the main war camp with this layer of relationship. By then, the peace faction led by the Muranxiu family would be in a bad situation. If the Tuoba family were to win the Five Elements Temple's approval, the Muranxiu family would suffer the heaviest blow. One wrong move and the whole game would be lost. Muranxiu could not help but feel defeated when he thought of this. The messenger from the Muranxiu family also had a ghastly expression. The patriarch of the Water tribe sighed. He had never wanted to join the pro-war faction. However, no one could stop Tuoba Lai now. Even Muranxiu had been defeated. Among the younger generation, who else could compete with Tuoba Lai? Sigh. The dragon lady sighed bitterly and shook her head slightly. She still had a glimmer of hope for Muranxiu. However, it seemed that Tuoba Lai's strength had far exceeded her expectations. Perhaps only this person beside her could help her. Thinking of this, the dragon lady could not help but turn her beautiful eyes to Yiguchin beside her. Looking at the dragon lady's beautiful eyes, Yiguchin's expression was calm. Since the dragon lady had agreed to help him enter the Five Elements Temple, Yiguchin naturally had to be loyal to her. Leave it to me, Yiguchin said and slowly stood up. The dragon lady's beautiful eyes shone with brilliance. At this moment, Tuoba Lai stood in the middle of the fighting ground. He was as sturdy as an iron tower and stood proudly. Who else? Tuoba Lai let out a long roar. His aura was terrifying and he looked insufferably arrogant. The surrounding Water tribe members, including the saints, shrunk their heads. Under such circumstances, no one dared to stand out and fight against Tuoba Lai. Me too, a faint voice rang out. It was not loud, but it seemed to spread throughout the entire fighting ground. For a moment, everyone looked towards the source of the voice. When they saw the ordinary-looking figure walking out, they could not help but be shocked. Chapter 536. Tuoba Lai had first defeated the Cloud River Saint Sun, then the Storm Wave Saint Sun. Now, even Mulanxio from the Mulan family had been defeated. He was in the limelight. That oppressive aura made all the saints and saintesses in the arena bow their heads, not daring to be in the limelight. At this time, who would dare to step forward? Wouldn't that be asking for trouble? It was precisely because of this that after hearing that voice, almost everyone in the arena cast their curious gazes over. They wanted to know who would dare to provoke Tuoba Lai at this time. However, when they saw the figure slowly walking towards the arena, the curiosity on their faces instantly turned into astonishment. If the person who spoke was a saint, it might be worth watching. However, the person who stood out now was someone no one had expected. Isn't that young man the dragon lady's subordinate? Why did he come out? I didn't feel the oppressive aura of a saint from him. He must be angry because of a beauty. After all, the dragon lady is very charming. But isn't he courting death by coming out now? The members of the water tribe in the arena were whispering to each other. They were unfamiliar with Yiguchin. The only impression they had was that he was very close to the dragon lady. However, Yiguchin didn't reveal anything. Coupled with his ordinary appearance, it was too easy for people to overlook him. Who is that young man? The leader of the water tribe frowned. Leader, that young man seems to be related to the dragon lady. He also has a rank 5 demonic beast. Yu Lang had some impression of Yiguchin, so he spoke up. Oh, is that so? The leader of the water tribe looked indifferent. Yiguchin wasn't from the water tribe, so he didn't care too much. Sigh, this young man is really reckless. You can't bring a rank 5 demonic beast in this kind of battle. Yu Lang shook his head, obviously thinking that Yiguchin was relying on the rank 5 demonic beast. It's him. Envoy Tuoba also recognized Yiguchin, and a playful smile appeared on his face. A few days ago, outside the Yunmeng marsh, he was embarrassed because of Yiguchin. Ha, are you serious? Tuoba Lai sneered when he saw Yiguchin stepping onto the stage. As long as I'm here, you can't have Dragon Lady. Yiguchin placed his hands behind his back and said calmly. It was as if he had the bearing of being unfazed even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. This sudden change in temperament caused some people to raise their eyebrows slightly. Dragon Lady's cheeks turned red. Yiguchin's words were very overbearing. It was as if she was Yiguchin's exclusive property. On one side of the battlefield, the stormy wave saint was in a sorry state. When he saw the dragon lady's face suddenly turn red, extreme jealousy and anger welled up in his heart. He couldn't help but yell, "You little brat, you're overestimating yourself. Even I was defeated by Tuoba Lai. Do you think you can win? Do you want to lose your life in front of the dragoness?" The stormy wave saint really couldn't stand the dragon lady's special treatment of Yiguchin. He also couldn't understand how Yiguchin was so powerful. The loser should shut up. Yiguchin glanced at the stormy wave saint indifferently. You. The stormy wave saint's face turned red. Dragon Lady also looked at the stormy wave saint with extreme disappointment. How could the saint of her clan be so pathetic? It was fine if he lost, but he was still clamoring like a clown. Let's see how miserable you'll be later. The stormy wave saint clenched his fist and said. He had always thought of himself as extraordinary. Even if he lost to Tuoba Lai, he thought it was because Tuoba Lai was too strong and not because he was too weak. In the viewing platform, Shui Rua clenched her fists tightly, worried for Yiguchin. This battle couldn't have the help of a rank 5 monster, so Shui Rua was very nervous. On the other hand, Mo Tao watched coldly from the side, quietly waiting to see Yiguchin's miserable state. Kid, since you took the initiative to come to me, then don't blame me for being merciless. You should know that you're not from the water tribe. Tuoba Lai's words had a deeper meaning, and his pair of scarlet eyes looked coldly at Yiguchin. What he meant was that Yiguchin wasn't from the water tribe. So even if he accidentally killed Yiguchin, it didn't matter. The water tribe wouldn't pursue the matter. Make your move. Yiguchin clasped his hands behind his back, unwilling to say more. Good kid. Seeing that Yiguchin was still so indifferent, Tuoba Lai felt unhappy. He directly punched out, still using the same punch that defeated Mulanxio. Dense murderous aura surrounded the tip of his fist, like a devil ape shaking the sky, and smashed towards Yiguchin's face. Devil ape bone-shattering fist. Tuoba Lai is going to kill. Seeing this, the people in the fighting ring couldn't help but exclaim. If the punch landed on the face, with its terrifying strength, the head would explode like a watermelon. Yi Guchen was a little surprised when he felt the wind from the fist coming at him. Tuoba Lai and Tuoba Shang weren't that far apart. Especially after using the devil ape transformation, Tuoba Lai's strength was obviously stronger. However, that was all there was to it. Yi Guchen said as he stretched out his hand. It was simple, without any aura. In the eyes of the people, this action was no different from suicide. Ridiculous. Mo Tao sneered. Facing such a powerful person like Tuoba Lai, how could he treat him with such contempt? In the eyes of the people, wasn't he courting death? Humph, I thought you were something. Tuoba Lai's eyes were filled with mockery. It was as if he could see Yi Guchen's brain exploding in the next moment. Boom! Tuoba Lai's fist finally punched out. However, the scene of Yi Guchen's brain exploding did not happen. Yi Guchen blocked Tuoba Lai's punch with one hand. Then, Yi Guchen exerted force on his wrist and twisted it. Ah! A wretched howl of anger mixed with pain suddenly rang out. However, the one who screamed wasn't Yi Guchen but Tuoba Lai. Everyone was dumbfounded. It was as if they were in the clouds and they couldn't figure out what was going on. Yi Guchen twisted his wrist and crushed all the bones in Tuoba Lai's arm that he used to punch Yi Guchen. Tuoba Lai retreated and he was in so much pain that he broke out in cold sweat. Silence, it was as if there was a dead silence. The clan leader of the water tribe, Elder Yulong, envoy Tuoba, Shui Rua, Mo Tao. Everyone present had a stunned expression on their faces. This was because the scene in front of them had overturned everything they knew. Tuoba Lai, who was retreating, covered his injured arm with his other hand. His bones were almost completely broken. An extreme unwillingness and disbelief appeared on his face. Although that young man's figure was skinny, his strength caused a storm to rise in Tuoba Lai's heart. Even Tuoba Shang, who was the strongest in the Tuoba family, couldn't be compared to him after using the four-beast golden body. However, he didn't know. Perfect physical body, indestructible diamond body, 5 totems, and the ancient god's secret art. Yi Guchen's physical body was almost invincible among martial artists of the same level. Competing with Yi Guchen in terms of physical body and strength was suicide. No, I don't believe it. How can I lose to you? Tuoba Lai roared. Since he couldn't win in terms of strength, he would use his totem power. He no longer held back and his totem power surged out. The earth-shaking demonic ape, flaming fiery dragon, and the third supreme totem appeared at the same time. Tuoba Lai was using his full strength now. He had fully displayed his strength as the Triple Crown champion. However, one punch, Yi Guchen said coldly. I only need one punch to defeat you. Chapter 537. Previously, Tuoba Lai had been so arrogant. He had sent the Cloud River Saint Sun and Stormy Wave Saint Sun flying with one punch. Even when facing Murenxiu, he had defeated her in a few moves. In the eyes of the crowd, he had established a domineering aura. But now, Yi Guchen had said that he would also defeat Tuoba Lai with one punch. This was even more shocking than when he had blocked Tuoba Lai's punch. However, Yi Guchen's performance just now had already stunned everyone present. Therefore, most of the people held their breaths as they watched the duel between the two. You are too arrogant. Tuoba Lai's eyes were bloodshot. He roared and activated the power of the demon ape transformation to the maximum. His muscular body grew taller again, and black hair grew all over his body. He looked like a real earth-shaking demon ape. Along with a cracking sound, Tuoba Lai's severed arm healed slightly for the time being. With the addition of the 3 supreme totems, Tuoba Lai's aura was much stronger than before. Even Murenxiu had a grave look on her face. If she were to face Tuoba Lai now, she would not be able to deal with him as easily as before. She would be defeated immediately. Die, brat! Tuoba Lai's totem power erupted like a volcano. The power of the 3 supreme totems was added to his punch as he smashed it toward Yi Guchen. This punch made Muranxiu and the other saints and saintesses of the water tribe change their expressions. They knew that if they were to face this punch, they would die immediately. Yi Guqin calmly looked at Tuoba Lai who was charging towards him. He could not casually take this punch. Yi Guqin took a step forward. With a loud bang, the ground shook. A surge of totem power that was much stronger than Tuoba Lai's exploded from his body. Although he had the wave illusion secret skill to cover it up, the power of the ancestor totem was still there. Even if it was not fully activated, it was still much stronger than an ordinary supreme totem. That's the wood elemental supreme totem. He's actually also a saint. Under the cover of the wave illusion secret technique, Yi Guqin's azure dragon totem transformed into an azure spirit dragon python. Among the supreme totems, it was considered an extremely powerful existence. All the members of the water tribe were shocked. They did not expect this ordinary-looking young man to be a holy son. Shui Ruo's mouth was wide open, clearly not expecting Yi Guqin to be a holy son. As for Mo Tao, he was also stunned on the spot, his eyes trembling. However, he still did not give up. After all, Yi Guqin had only summoned one supreme totem. Tuoba Lai had 3. So what if you're the holy son? You can't even compare to me. Seeing Yi Guqin bring out a supreme totem, the shock in the stormy wave saint's eyes dissipated, replaced by stubborn disdain. However, was that all? Boom! Yi Guqin took another step forward, and the second supreme totem also appeared. Double Crown King. Someone exclaimed in disbelief. Even the leader of the water tribe, Elder Yulong, and the others were shocked. If Yi Guqin was just an ordinary holy son, they would not be too concerned. However, a double crown king was different. It was obviously more important than an ordinary holy son. Mo Tao's face froze again. As for the stormy wave saint, his disdainful smile froze. Just now, he still stubbornly believed that Yi Guqin was not as good as him. However, now, Yi Guqin was also a double crown king, just like him. If he still disdained Yi Guqin, then what was he? However, the shock brought by Yi Guqin had yet to dissipate. Totem power surged in Yi Guqin's body again, and the third supreme totem appeared. Shock, it was no longer enough to describe everyone's feelings. Even the leader of the water tribe and the others lost their composure. Tuoba Lai jumped up as if his butt was on fire. His voice was muffled and trembling as he said, How? How could he be a triple crown king like young master? A triple crown king. A double crown king was already considered outstanding among the barbarian holy sons. A triple crown king was a top-notch figure. He was second only to Tuoba Shang, and was the future seed of the barbarian race. No one in the arena had expected that this ordinary-looking young man would actually be a terrifying triple champion. Shui Ruo was already shocked to the extreme. The triple crown king had given her too much of a shock. Mo Tao was completely stunned, as if he had been petrified. He looked at Yi Guqin in a daze. As for the stormy wave saint, he shook his head in a daze. No. Triple Crown King, how could it be? He did not believe that this ordinary-looking young man was a Triple Crown King who was stronger than him. However, this was the truth. It's about time. Yi Guqin said to himself as he felt the surging totem power in his body. The power of 3 totems was already enough. If he used more totems, it would be enough to attract the attention of the 5 Elements Temple. After adding the power of 3 totems, Yi Guqin's eyes shone brightly. He also punched towards Tuoba Lai. Tuoba Lai was also shocked by Yi Guqin's 3 totems. However, the arrow had already been knocked on the bow, and it had to be released. With his temper, he would not back down. Their fists collided. Boom! It was as if a mushroom cloud had exploded in the arena. A strong wind tore through the air and spread in all directions. Dust flew everywhere, and a miserable howl was heard again. No. It can't be. Mo Tao, the stormy wave saint, envoy Tuoba, and the others who had conflicts with Yiguchin felt their hearts skip a beat. Although they did not want to think that way, from the sound, it did sound like, sure enough, as the dust settled, everyone in the arena saw Tuoba lying on the edge of the arena. His entire arm, which he used to punch out, was completely crippled. Blood flowed out from it non-stop. Compared to his previous arrogance, Tuoba was now in a miserable state. This. Tuoba lost. Mulanshio rubbed his eyes. He felt as if he was dreaming. Tuoba, who had defeated him, was now lying on the ground like a dead dog, panting heavily. Was this still the arrogant Tuoba of the Tuoba family? In the arena, many of the Water Tribe members were dead silent. However, a voice that was as clear as a silver bell laughed. Yay! Brother Dugu won. The person who spoke was Shui Ruo. Her eyes were curved into crescents. She was very happy. This girl. Does she know what this battle means? Some of the Water Tribe members looked at Shui Ruo and could not help but feel ashamed. This was not a simple victory. It was related to the Tuoba family's plan. Moreover, the Triple Crown champion who had appeared out of nowhere would cause a great commotion in the barbarian tribe. After all, the person he had defeated was the famous Tuoba of the Tuoba family. If the Quadruple Crown champion, Tuoba Shang, knew about it, what would his attitude be? Dragon Lady, who was sitting on the spectator stand, finally let out a long sigh of relief. Yiguchin seemed to never disappoint. As for Mo Tao, the Stormy Wave Saint, and the others, their faces were completely stiff. They were so ashamed that they looked like clowns. Thinking about how they had looked down on Yiguchin, the two of them felt cold sweat running down their backs. If Yiguchin had been more calculative, they would have ended up in a worse state than Tuoba. Chapter 538. They looked at Tuoba, who was severely injured and in a sorry state. The entire arena was dead silent. They looked at Yiguchin, and there was no longer any doubt and contempt in their eyes. The Triple Crown champion was not qualified to fight alongside the Dragon Lady. How many people in the barbarian tribe were qualified to do so? Moreover, the young Triple Crown champion was someone who could easily defeat Tuoba. No wonder the Dragon Lady is so close to him. Even Tuoba is no match for him. A member of the Sea tribe exclaimed. Where did the Triple Crown champion come from? Why have I never heard of him before? Someone was puzzled. However, no matter what, Yiguchin's figure was infinitely elevated in their eyes. He was second only to the Quadruple Crown champion, Tuoba Shang. Sigh, looks like I've misjudged him. Elder Yulang smiled bitterly. Faced with Tuoba's oppression, the one who subdued him was not the holy son of the Sea tribe, but Yiguchin, who was ignored and scolded by him. This made Elder Yulang sigh. The expression of the clan leader of the Sea tribe changed. However, when he thought of the close relationship between the Dragon Lady and Yiguchin, his expression became more relaxed. Sure enough, there is always someone better than you. The patriarch of the Water tribe smiled meaningfully. Messenger Tuoba's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He was so arrogant before. He even dared to mock the clan leader of the Sea tribe. However, Messenger Tuoba was now cowering like a quail. He was no longer as arrogant as before. In the arena, Tuoba stood up slowly and stared at Yiguchin. Who the hell are you? Tuoba's voice almost popped out from between his teeth. I'm just a wandering barbarian. Yiguchin said casually. A cold light flashed across his eyes. Yiguchin was not a merciful person. He would not show mercy to his enemies. However, if he killed Tuoba now, the Tuoba family would come to him immediately. In order to enter the Five Elements Temple and obtain the sacred medicine, Yiguchin had to spare Tuoba's life. Ah, a wandering barbarian. Tuoba actually lost to a wandering barbarian. Tuoba clenched his teeth. But now that the dust had settled, there was nothing he could do. Because the promise of the groom selection arena had already been set. No matter how powerful the Tuoba family was, they couldn't be so shameless. Tuoba Lai couldn't swallow his pride and go back on his word. Moreover, there were people from the Mulan family present. If Tuoba Lai didn't admit it, the Mulan family wouldn't just stand by and watch. Humph. Even if he didn't dare, Tuoba Lai could only coldly snort and walk off the stage. In the stands, Dragonessa's palms were sweating. After seeing Tuoba Lai back down, she finally let out a sigh of relief. If she had to serve Tuoba Lai in the future, it would be worse than killing her. For a moment, Dragon Lady looked at Yi Guqin with a strange light in her eyes. She knew that Yi Guqin had yet to display his true strength. He had only summoned 3 totems. If he summoned all 5 totems, Tuoba Lai wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. He would explode and die. Ha, brother Tuoba, it seems like you and I are not fated to meet a beauty like Dragoness today. Murengxiu laughed lightly. He was also glad that Yi Guqin had appeared out of nowhere. Otherwise, the Mulan family would be under a lot of pressure if the plan failed. To a certain extent, Yi Guqin had helped the Mulan family. Murengxiu, it's too early for your Mulan family to be happy. This time, the door of the ancient god in the 5 Elements temple has opened once again. Let's see what the Mulan family has to fight with the Tuoba family. Tuoba Lai said coldly. This. Murengxiu's face changed slightly. His expression was uncertain. When Yi Guqin heard this, a ray of light flashed across his eyes. Door of the ancient god. Yi Guqin was slightly surprised. As someone who knew the secret of the ancient god and cultivated the ancient god tactics, Yi Guqin was naturally familiar with the ancient god. There was no doubt that the door of the ancient god was related to the ancient god. However, Yi Guqin knew too little about the 5 Elements temple. He calmed down and decided to ask Dragoness about the door of the ancient god in the future. When Tuoba Lai mentioned the door of the ancient god, the entire water tribe became silent. In their eyes, Tuoba Shang would naturally benefit the most from the opening of the door of the ancient god if there were no accidents. After all, he was the #1 expert among the younger generation of the barbarian tribe. As for the 5-crown king that Yi Guqin had transformed into, the barbarian tribe did not include him because they did not know his identity. Murengxiu's face turned ugly. When cousin Tuoba Shang enters the door of the ancient god and inherits the bloodline of the ancestors, your Mulan family. Tuoba Lai did not say anything else but revealed a cold smile. His words made Murengxiu's face turn even colder. Tuoba Lai glanced at him coldly before looking at Yi Guqin. The coldness in his eyes was so thick that it could not be dispersed. When I enter the door of the ancient god and obtain the opportunity, I might be able to defeat this kid, Tuoba Lai thought. Then, the Tuoba family left with their tails between their legs. Then, the Mulan family will take our leave too. Murengxiu seemed to have something on his mind as he left. Then, there were only the water tribe members left in the fighting ring. The opening of the door of the ancient god had nothing to do with most of the water tribe members. At that moment, their attention was only on Yi Guqin. Many of the water tribe members' eyes were filled with excitement. Although Yi Guqin's appearance was very ordinary, compared to his strength, appearance was not very important. After all, the barbarian tribe was a tribe that worshipped the strong. Mo Tao's heart was dead and he no longer had the courage to resent Yi Guqin. After all, the gap between them was so big that it was hard to describe. Shui Ruo was genuinely happy for Yi Guqin. Then, the groom selection ceremony is over. The final winner, Dugu Wubai, can marry the dragon lady, an elder of the water tribe announced. Regardless of Yi Guqin's identity, the Triple Crown King's strength was enough for the water tribe to rope him in. When the water tribe members heard that, they started to laugh and jeer. The dragon lady blushed. Although she had only asked for Yi Guqin's help, she was still a little embarrassed. When the turbulent wave saint saw the blushing dragon lady, his chest was about to explode. However, When he thought of Yiguchen's terrifying punch that suppressed Tuoba Lai, his anger was extinguished. A conceited person like him only knew how to bully the weak and fear the strong. Looking at the cheers of the crowd, Yiguchen's expression was calm. This was only a deal between him and the Dragon Lady. It was impossible for them to form a marriage alliance. However, although that was what he thought, the Water Tribe members did not think so. The Water Tribe members moved quickly. In just a short while, they had even prepared the bridal chamber for the marriage alliance. If not for the Dragon Lady's explanation, the wedding banquet would have already started. In the dead of night, the Dragon Lady's residence had already been decorated into a bridal chamber. The Dragon Lady sat quietly in her room, feeling a little disappointed. Just then, the door was pushed open. Yiguchen, dressed in a black robe, walked in calmly. For some reason, the Dragon Lady's heart trembled. It can't be. Could it be that Yiguchen is really interested in me? What should I do? Reject him? The Dragon Lady was very nervous. Her snow-white face blushed. Yiguchen looked at the Dragon Lady and said, "There's no time to lose. Let's begin." "Ah, this sudden." The Dragon Lady stuttered. "What else? Aren't you very impatient?" Yiguchen looked at the Dragon Lady strangely. I'm not that impatient." The Dragon Lady blushed and lowered her head slightly. She admitted that she had some feelings for Yiguchen, but it was not to that extent. "I see." Yiguchen sighed. The Dragon Lady saw this and said anxiously, "It's not that I can't, but, can you be gentler?" Yiguchen looked at the Dragon Lady in confusion. "I don't know much about this kind of thing." "I still need you to guide me," Yiguchen said. "What, still need me to do it? It's my first time too." The Dragon Lady's voice was hoarse. She rolled her eyes at Yiguchen. "Don't you know how to transform a totem? Then how can I help you?" Yiguchen frowned. The Dragon Lady's face froze. The atmosphere became awkward. Chapter 539. Dragon Lady was stunned. Then, she blushed as if she was on fire. She had seen people who were unromantic, but she had never seen someone so unromantic. Dragon Lady knew that Yiguchen was a sword and martial arts maniac. He didn't care about romantic relationships at all. However, a woman of such noble status and flawless appearance like her was like a delicate and beautiful flower in front of him. She was actually able to remain indifferent. In fact, the Dragon Lady had misunderstood Yiguchen's intentions. At this moment, even with Dragon Lady's temper, she wanted to bite Yiguchen. "What's wrong?" Seeing Dragon Lady gnashing her teeth, Yiguchen raised his eyebrows slightly. He seemed to have angered Dragon Lady. But where did he go wrong? Yiguchen might never understand. Nothing. Then come. Dragon Lady snorted and didn't say anything else. She did need Yiguchen's soaring snake totem to help her transform. Next, Yiguchen activated the soaring snake totem in his body. Dragon Lady guided him carefully. After all, this was related to her totem's transformation. As time passed, Dragon Lady's serene blue serpent totem was affected by the ancestral totem. It was as if it was about to awaken. The surging water-type totem power boiled in the totem. Dragon Lady took out some water-type divine items again to refine. In the blink of an eye, a night had passed. Yiguchen's face showed a hint of fatigue. Activating the ancestral totem for the entire night was quite taxing on Yiguchen. As for the dragoness, although she hadn't changed much from before, she still looked the same. However, the pair of crystal jade horns on her forehead had grown a lot. Her skin became even more translucent and translucent. She opened her eyes slightly. Her blue pupils were as clear as ocean blue crystals, containing light. "I did it." Dragon Lady released her own totem. The serene blue serpent totem transformed into the seven seas serpent. Although the Seven Seas Serpent Totem hadn't reached the level of the Ancestral Totem, it was already one of the top supreme totems. It was much stronger than the Serene Blue Serpent. At the same time, because of the totem's transformation, Dragon Lady's Water Dragon bloodline was activated. Her current strength was almost 5 times greater than before. Dragoness even had the confidence to compete with the Triple Crown King. "Thank you very much," the Dragon Lady said sincerely to Yi Guqin. It could be said that Yi Guqin had helped her too much. "It's fine." "Oh right, what exactly is the door of the ancient god?" Yi Guqin suddenly remembered and asked. Dragoness heard this and her expression turned serious. "The ancient god door is located inside the 5 Elements temple," Dragon Lady said. "Rumor has it that it is a small space. It is the place where the ancestors fell and left their legacies. Not only are there legacies from the ancestors, but there are also some totem legacies, divine weapons, treasures, and even sacred medicines." As expected, Yi Guqin's eyes shone brightly. Lotus Flower Village's Longyuan village chief once said that the 5 Elements temple might have a sacred medicine. He didn't expect it to be inside the door of the ancient god. Not only sacred medicine, but the so-called ancestors' relics and bloodline were probably related to the ancient god too. These were all what Yi Guqin needed. "I need to enter the door of the ancient god." Yi Guqin didn't beat around the bush and said firmly. Dragoness smiled bitterly and said, "I knew you would have such a plan. Luckily, there is a chance to enter the door of the ancient god, but you might have to go to the Mulan clan." "Why?" Yi Guqin asked. "That's because only the 2 barbarian families are qualified to let their juniors enter the door of the ancient god. Every time the door of the ancient god opens, the 2 families will not only recruit their own holy sons and holy daughters, but also recruit some powerful holy sons and holy sons to join their camps. For example, Lei Jilyo, Golden Sun Saint, and the others will join the Tuoba clan and enter the door of the ancient god under Tuoba Shang's lead. The top saints and saintesses of the Water Tribe and the Wood Tribe might join the Mulan clan and be led by Mulan Yu. However, because of Tuoba Shang, the Mulan clan might be in danger during the door of the ancient god this time." Dragoness glanced at Yi Guqin as she spoke. "Of course, if you join the Mulan clan, the outcome might be different." Yi Guqin nodded slightly. It was obviously impossible for him to join the Tuoba clan. Therefore, the only choice was the Mulan clan. "The door of the ancient god is about to open. Now that my strength has increased, the Mulan clan will probably take a fancy to me and enter the door of the ancient god with Mulan Yu. I will also bring you along," Dragoness said. She would naturally do her best to fulfill her promise to Yi Guqin. "Thank you." Yi Guqin cupped his hands. At the same time, his eyes shone with determination. No one could stop him from obtaining the sacred medicine in the door of the ancient god. If anyone stood in his way, he would kill God. If Buddha stood in his way, he would kill Buddha. "Oh right, if you have time, find Shui Ruo. I will also transform her totem into the supreme totem." Yi Guqin suddenly thought. He had a good impression of Shui Ruo. He did not mind helping her. "What a lucky girl to have gained your favor," Dragoness said. A few days later, Dragoness also found Shui Ruo. However, Yi Guqin did not openly help Shui Ruo transform her totem because it would expose the existence of the primogenitor totem. It was only after Dragoness drugged Shui Ruo that Yi Guqin activated the primogenitor totem. In the end, Shui Ruo's totem was also upgraded to the supreme totem. Of course, the power of transformation could not be used without restraint. After helping Dragoness and Shui Ruo, Yi Guqin felt that the Ting Snake totem seemed to be lacking. Dragoness also found many water-type divine items to help Yi Guqin make up for it. A few days later, Shui Ruo suddenly found that her totem had transformed into the supreme totem. She was so excited that she could not speak. Of course, Dragoness and Yi Guqin did not tell Shui Ruo the truth. Shui Ruo thought that Long Nu had used some kind of rare treasure to transform her totem. However, she was also grateful to Yiguchen. If it were not for Yiguchen, Dragoness would not value her so much. In the blink of an eye, a few days had passed. Yiguchen, let's go to the Muron family. Dragoness said. Okay. Yiguchen nodded slightly. He would only be qualified to enter the door of the ancient god if he was recognized by the Muron family. Of course, Dragoness and Yiguchen were not the only ones from the water tribe going this time. The Stormy Wave Saint Sun, Cloud River Saint Sun and the others would also go. Even Shui Rua had become the saintess because she had transformed into the supreme totem. She was qualified to go to the Muron family. Of course, going to the Muron family did not mean that one would be recognized by the Muron family and enter the door of the ancient god. The two families had a limited number of spots to enter the door of the ancient god. Excluding the prodigies in the family, each family only had about 10 spots. Although there were not many saints in the barbarian tribe, there were still quite a few of them. There were so many saints, yet they could only fight for a mere 10 spots. The competition would definitely be extremely intense. However, Yiguchen did not have a trace of fear. He only had a strong belief to obtain the sacred elixir and save Su Jianshi. No one would be able to stop him. If there was, he would crush them. Chapter 540. A few days later, at the edge of Yunmeng Lake, a blue airship sat on the ground. Dragon Lady, Yiguchen, Divine Eagle, Shui Rua, and the others all boarded the airship. Then, Turbulent Wave Saint Sun, Yunhe Saint Sun, and the others boarded the airship as well. I hope you can enter the door of ancient god. If you can get the inheritance of our ancestors' bloodline, the water tribe will rise again, Yulang Elder said. But he was just saying it. The water tribe Saint Sun was weaker than the gold tribe, fire tribe, and thunder tribe. Dragon Lady didn't spread the news about her totem transformation. She wanted to shock the Mulan family and get the chance to enter the door of ancient god. But Yulang Elder glanced at Yiguchen. If he didn't have any expectations for the other water tribe saints, then, this Triple Crown champion who defeated Tuoba Lai would have a good chance. But it's a pity that he's not a pure water tribe member. Yulang Elder sighed. Yiguchen was born and raised in the water tribe. The entire water tribe would try their best to invest all their resources on Yiguchen. Although Yiguchen was Dragon Lady's husband, he didn't have a close relationship with the water tribe. After that, the flying boat that carried the aquatics rose into the sky as the totem power surged. It flew toward the Muron clan's residence. Dragon Lady and Shui Rua stayed by Yiguchen's side along the way. Looking at the two beauties, one on Yiguchen's left and one on Yiguchen's right, the Stormy Wave Saint Sun's face was incomparably cold, with a hint of jealousy. But he didn't have the courage to provoke Yiguchen. His only hope was that the Tuoba family could teach him a lesson. This Dugu Wubai has offended Tuoba Lai. Even if he can enter the door of the ancient gods, he will be targeted by the Tuoba family. Let's see how he will deal with it. No matter how strong he is, can he be stronger than Tuoba Shang? The Stormy Wave Saint Child's face was gloomy as he sat at the back, thinking. Yiguchen didn't know what the Stormy Wave Saint Sun was thinking, and even if he did, he wouldn't care. There was almost no one among the younger generation of the barbarian race who could compete with him. About a day later, the flying boat had also completely entered the land of 5 elements. The encampments of the Tuoba family and the Mulan family were located in the depths of the land of 5 elements. It wasn't too far away from the 5 elements temple. After all, the two barbarian families had a place in the 5 elements temple's elder council. They could be considered as branches of the 5 elements temple. One day later, Yiguchen saw an endless mountain range in the distance. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth lingered like mist, and there were many buildings scattered around. Vaguely, Yiguchen also sensed the subtle fluctuations of the array. It was obvious that the Mulan family's encampment also had a protective array. The flying boat carried the group of people from the water tribe and landed on an open space outside the mountain range. At that moment, the open space was filled with a group of people. Most of them were the saints of various races. Many of the saints and saintesses were surprised when they saw the people from the water tribe. They had heard that Tuoba Lai went to the water tribe to ask for their daughter's hand in marriage. However, the final result made everyone's jaws drop. Tuoba Lai was actually rebuffed. Yiguchin and the others alighted from the flying boat and stood where they were. Many people's eyes fell on Yiguchin. With the dragon girl beside him, they naturally knew who this ordinary-looking young man was. This must be the Triple Crown champion, Duga Wubai, who caused a stir in the barbarian race recently. A strange girl with green hair walked out from the crowd. Even her pupils were emerald green in color. That's the Wood Tribe's saintess, the Wooden Bell Spirit, the dragon girl said quietly. Yiguchin nodded slightly as a greeting. The Wood Tribe was similar to the Water Tribe. They were gentle and peaceful, and had a good relationship with each other. Are you sure he's the one who defeated Tuoba Lai? It doesn't look like it. A muscular man with a naked upper body, muscles like iron, and a king mark on his forehead questioned. Perhaps Tuoba Lai has an undeserved reputation. After all, he doesn't have any impressive battle records. Another muscular man said playfully. His chin and neck were covered with white fur like a lion's mane. Yiguchin frowned slightly as he looked at the two muscular men. They are the lion and tiger saints of the barbarian tribe. One of them is called the White Lion Saint and the other is the Black Tiger Saint. Both of them are very strong, but the barbarian tribe doesn't have a good relationship with our water tribe. Dragon Girl looked at the two men with disgust. Before she had her current strength, she was often ridiculed by the two men. However, as they were all in the Mulan family's camp, she didn't want to fall out with them. However, it was different now. With Yiguchin and the dragon girl's strength, she was no match for him. Facing the lion and tiger saints, she didn't have any fear. I wonder if your water tribe can get a slot to enter the door of the ancient god this time, or will you leave with your tail between your legs like before? The lion and tiger saints didn't hide their disdain. They knew their strength and knew that the Mulan family would try their best to rope them in, so they weren't afraid of offending the dragon girl. The Stormy Wave Saint and the others looked terrible, but they didn't dare to refute. They hid like turtles. The lion and tiger saints looked even more disdainful when they saw this. Lion and tiger saints, that's enough. We don't know who will get a slot this time. Dragon Girl was angry when she saw the cowardly look of the Stormy Wave Saint and the others. Do you think you're confident now that you have a husband? The Lion and Tiger Saints sneered. Yiguchin looked at the Lion and Tiger Saints indifferently and didn't say a word. However, the Lion and Tiger Saints felt a chill run down their spines, as if they were being stared at by some dangerous existence. This brat. The two of them looked at each other and felt that Yiguchin was indeed not a simple person. At this moment, a figure walked over from the mountain range not far away. It was an elder of the Mulan family. Greetings, elder. All the saints and saintesses present cupped their fists and greeted him. The elder of the Mulan family had an extraordinary status. Well, almost everyone is here. Let's go to the test site. The elder of the Mulan family said indifferently. The test site? Yiguchin was confused. It's not that easy for the Mulan family to choose people. They need to go through 3 tests to be recognized. Dragon Girl explained. I see. Yiguchin said. He believed that this test wouldn't be a problem for him. Not long after, Yiguchin and the others arrived at the test site under the guidance of the elder of the Mulan family. There were already many members of the Mulan family at the test site. Yiguchin looked around and saw some familiar faces. Needless to say, Mulanxiu was among them. There was also Mulanue, a beautiful girl in a colorful dress with an exotic charm, who was also in the crowd. As the leader of the team entering the door of the ancient god, Mulanue was naturally very attentive to the test. However, Mulanue's mind was still wandering at the moment. It's a pity that the 5-crown king disappeared after the battle in the ancient desolation arena. If I could rope him in, I wouldn't be so worried now. Mulanue couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 541. Only those who witnessed it personally knew how powerful Quintuple Crown King was. Even the invincible Quintuple Crown King, Tuoba Shang, was insignificant in the face of such an existence. It could be said that the battle in the ancient desolate arena had shaken Mulanue. If she could rope in the real Quintuple Crown King, she wouldn't have to worry about dealing with Tuoba Shang. Mulanue was most worried that Tuoba Shang would obtain the bloodline inheritance after entering the door of the ancient god. At that time, he would truly obtain the recognition of the Five Elements Temple. The Tuoba family would also completely control the will of the Five Elements Temple. As for the Mulanue family, needless to say, they would be fiercely suppressed by the Tuoba family. This wasn't something Mulanue wanted to see. However, it was a pity that after the desolate ancient arena, Five Crown King seemed to have disappeared without a trace. There was no more news about him. Even if Mulanue wanted to find him, she was powerless. Sigh. Mulanue deeply sighed. Sister Yu, that's the Triple Crown King who defeated Tuoba Lai. His name is Duga Wubai and he's now the husband of the Dragon Lady, Murangxiu said. Mulanue's mind was spinning and she still hadn't recovered from her shock. Sister Yu? Murangxiu reminded. Oh, it's him. Mulanue regained her senses and glanced at Yiguchen. Although the Triple Crown King wasn't weak, Tuoba Lai wasn't the only Triple Crown King in the Tuoba family. Moreover, Mulanue heard that the Tuoba family seemed to have recruited many powerful saints and saintesses. There were also Triple Crown Kings among them. Therefore, although Yiguchen's appearance surprised Mulanue, it wasn't enough to determine her victory. Murangxiu bitterly smiled. It seemed that Mulanue didn't value this Triple Crown King too much. Everyone, I'm Mulanue, the saintess of the Mulanue family. I'll lead you into the door of the ancient god to seize the opportunity. However, not everyone can enter the door of the ancient god. Apart from the disciples of the Mulanue family, there are only 10 spots. Therefore, only the most powerful saints and saintesses are qualified to enter with us. Mulanue said when she saw that almost everyone had arrived. Saintess Mulan, don't worry. With us, the Lion and Tiger Saints, this time's gate of the ancient gods operation is in the bag. The White Lion Holy Sun and the Black Tiger Holy Sun seemed to be very confident as they laughed loudly. Mulanue nodded slightly. She knew the strength of the Lion and Tiger Saints. Although these two saints only had one supreme totem each, it was the most powerful supreme totem of all. One was the golden-eyed White Lion, and the other was the Heavenly Devil Tiger. Both were extremely powerful totems. It could be said that the two of them were not much weaker than the Triple Crown champion. What was even rarer was that the two saints were able to cooperate seamlessly. They were even able to perform a joint attack. That kind of power even shocked Mulanue. She believed that even Tuoba Shang would not be able to completely ignore the Lion and Tiger Saints' attacks. The Lion and Tiger Saints seemed to have noticed the importance on Mulanue's face. They looked at Dragoness, Yiguchen, and the others with mocking gazes. They didn't hide their provocation. We'll teach them a lesson later. Dragoness looked unfriendly. Yiguchen didn't care and waited quietly. Next, there will be 3 major tests. Everyone, follow me. Mulanue said and walked directly into the mountain range. All the Chosens followed closely behind him. Not long after, Yiguchen saw a 3-foot-tall stone gate in an open space. The stone gate was engraved with various barbarian tribe totems and ancient characters. Dragoness's expression changed slightly. Why is it this? What is this? Yiguchen asked in a low voice. Dragoness looked at Yiguchen with concern. This is the bloodline gate unique to the barbarian tribe. It can sense the barbarian tribe's bloodline. According to the purity of the bloodline, the light it emits will be different. From low to high, there are 7 types of light: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. If it's an outsider, it won't shine, Dragoness said in a low voice. Yiguchen frowned slightly. He wasn't a barbarian. If he entered the bloodline gate, he wouldn't shine. If that was the case, it would be a big problem. Not to mention whether he could be valued by the Mulan family and enter the door of the ancient god. Even if he could leave safely, it would be a problem. But when he thought that this was his only chance to enter the door of the ancient god, Yiguchen's eyes flashed with determination. Fight! Yiguchen had always been calm and collected. He rarely acted impulsively. But sometimes, he knew he shouldn't do it, but he still did it. Because this was his only chance. And Yiguchen was betting that he wouldn't be exposed. Are you sure you want to participate? Dragoness leaned closer to Yiguchen and whispered. Yiguchen nodded slightly. Dragoness sighed. She was already thinking about how to deal with Yiguchen if his identity as an outsider was exposed. The first test wasn't difficult for the other saints and saintesses. It was nothing more than a test of bloodline. Generally speaking, the higher the bloodline, the stronger the strength and the higher the talent. The first saint began to enter the bloodline gate. Immediately, the bloodline gate emitted a ball of yellow light. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. The red light was the lowest, and the purple light was the highest. The yellow light was below average. The saint's face darkened. Seeing this, Mulan Yue's face was also calm. If the bloodline purity wasn't high, it meant that there was no value in cultivating it. If the Mulan family brought these saints in and let them seize opportunities, they might be of help to the Mulan family in the future. If their talent wasn't high, they wouldn't achieve much in the future. This kind of person had a low chance of being recognized. Then came the second and third saints. But most of them only emitted yellow light. The one with the best bloodline only emitted green light, which was only average. This caused the complexions of Mulan Yue and the elders of the Mulan family to turn ugly. Are those with the highest bloodline purity in the Gold Clan, Fire Clan, and Thunder Clan? Some elders of the Mulan family were upset. It's our turn. At this moment, a heroic voice sounded. The White Lion Saint and Black Tiger Saint of the Barbarians stepped forward at the same time. The surrounding saints and saintesses all looked at them. Even Mulan Yue, who didn't look too good, was excited. She looked at the Lion and Tiger Saints with anticipation. If one were to ask who Mulan Yue relied on the most, it would undoubtedly be the Lion and Tiger Saints. As for the Dragoness, although she wasn't bad, the news of her totem's transformation hadn't spread, so Mulan Yue didn't know. The Lion and Tiger Saints seemed to be very confident in the Bloodline Gate's test. They stepped in one after another. The bloodline gate lit up with a rich green light. There was even a hint of blue in the green light. High-grade pure bloodline. The surrounding holy sons all exclaimed in surprise, their eyes filled with astonishment. Good. Some elders of the Mulan family couldn't help but exclaim. A faint smile finally appeared on Mulan Yue's calm face. The green light represented the superior bloodline of the Lion and Tiger Saints. It even had a hint of blue. Blue was an extremely pure bloodline. Mulan Yue's bloodline could only make the bloodline gate emit blue light. This meant that the bloodline of the Lion and Tiger Saints was close to Mulan Yue's. However, the Lion and Tiger Saints weren't surprised by this result. Their eyes immediately fell on the Dragoness and the others of the Water Clan. Ha! The purity of our bloodline is only a so-so. How can it compare to the Water Clans? Don't you think so? As soon as he said this, many eyes fell on the Dragoness and the others. Chapter 542. The barbarians and the aquatics had some conflicts before. Therefore, they had always been at odds with each other. However, the aquatics had a mix of good and bad in this generation. Apart from the Dragon Lady, there were no other young powerhouses. Previously, the aquatics had an internal conflict. The battle between the Sunflower Inji and the Dragon Lady had caused the deaths of some saints and saintesses. It had also weakened the younger generation of the aquatics. Therefore, apart from the Dragon Lady, the aquatics only had the Stormy Wave Saint and a few other powerhouses left. They could not do much. Not to mention famous prodigies like Lei Jiuyo and the Golden Sun Saint. The Lion and Tiger Saints had targeted the aquatics because they wanted to see them lose face. The Lion and Tiger Saints knew a little about the Dragon Lady. Although she was not bad, she was definitely not as good as them. As for the Stormy Wave Saint and the others, the Lion and Tiger Saints did not think highly of them. As for Yi Gu Chen, his rise was too short. Previously, he had only defeated Tuoba Lai in one battle. Therefore, his true strength was still questioned. Seeing that the aquatics were being targeted, the other saints and saintesses also looked over. Mulanjue's beautiful eyes also turned to the Dragon Lady and Yiguchen. Yiguchen's aura had always been hidden, so Mulanjue did not sense much of it. However, the Dragon Lady made Mulanjue feel that there was something different. However, Mulanjue did not have much hope. After all, she knew a little about the Dragon Lady's strength. Next, under the deliberate targeting of the Lion and Tiger Saints, the aquatics had no choice but to step forward. The first to be tested were the saints. The Yunhe Saint was the first to step into the bloodline door. The bloodline door released a yellow light that was below average. The Yunhe Saint did not look too good. Next was the Stormy Wave Saint. He was a little nervous. I am the double champion. Logically speaking, the purity of my bloodline should not be low. The Stormy Wave Saint clenched his fists. He had always been arrogant and thought that he was a dragon among men. He had developed a flamboyant personality. However, at this moment, the Stormy Wave Saint stepped into the bloodline door, and the faint yellow light was so dazzling. No, impossible. How could my bloodline be so weak? The Stormy Wave Saint's face turned from red to green, then from green to purple. His bloodline was just as inferior as it was now. Ha, what a joke. Is this the bloodline of the water race's holy son? It's too weak. The Lion and Tiger Saints laughed heartily. That laughter was extremely ear-piercing. The Stormy Wave Saint simply wanted to turn into an ostrich and bury his head in the ground. Seeing the Stormy Wave Saint's pathetic appearance, Dragoness shook her head slightly. Even she looked down on the holy sun. The next one was Shui Ruo. Shui Ruo's expression was a little uneasy. After all, she had not been a saintess for long and had not developed the bearing that she should have. Mockery appeared on the faces of the Lion and Tiger Saints when they saw this. Is there no one else in the water tribe? They even sent out a little girl. The Black Tiger Saint child sneered. Hearing this, Shui Ruo suppressed her anger and directly stepped into the bloodline door. In an instant, a rich green brilliance was released, and there were even traces of green in it. Hey, the purity of this little girl's bloodline is not bad. Sounds of surprise came from all around. Even Mulanjue's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. She had never seen Shui Ruo before, so she did not care. Although the purity of Shui Ruo's bloodline was not particularly high, it was already above average, surpassing that of many saints and saintesses. However, if Mulanjue knew that Shui Ruo was only an ordinary girl with an elite totem before, her jaw would definitely drop. Even the Lion and Tiger Saints' smiles faded a little. Although Shui Ruo's bloodline was far from theirs, it was already better than most people's. How is this possible? I can't even compare to Shui Ruo. The Stormy Wave Saint child looked dejected. Recently, he had suffered a series of blows, and his arrogance was all gone. Shui Ruo returned to Dragoness and Yiguchen's side with a smile. Brother Dugu, Sister Dragoness's treasure is so powerful. It actually improved my bloodline. Shui Ruo did not know that her totem was transformed by Yiguchen with great effort. Yiguchen smiled faintly. Then, Dragoness slowly walked toward the bloodline gate. The Lion and Tiger Saints also looked over. In their eyes, Shui Ruo and the others were insignificant. Dragoness was the one who received the most attention. Dragoness felt everyone's gaze on her. She took a deep breath. She stepped into the gate. The entire bloodline gate shook instantly. Dense green light suddenly spread out under the astonished gazes of the lion and tiger saints. Green light. Dragoness is indeed the number one of the younger generation of the water tribe. Many people exclaimed. Mu Lanue seemed to have expected this and was not too surprised. She murmured, "It's really just green light." Compared to the lion and tiger saints, it was still a little inferior. Although it's green light, it's still okay. The lion and tiger saints secretly sighed in relief. Their light was green with a hint of blue, which was obviously better than Dragoness. Dragoness felt the gazes of the people around her and smiled. Boom! She secretly activated the Seven Seas Jiao Dragon totem in her body. At the same time, the water dragon bloodline was completely activated. After being refined by Yiguchen's ancestral totem, Dragoness had undergone a complete transformation. Both the totem and the bloodline could not be mentioned in the same breath. At this moment, the green light of the bloodline gate changed again into a dense blue light. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple. The blue light was second only to the purple light. Even Mu Lanue's bloodline purity could only reach the blue light. As for the purple light, it meant that the purity of the bloodline had reached the extreme. Even Tuoba Shang couldn't reach the purple light when testing the bloodline. However, Dragoness's blue light had shocked everyone. The lion and tiger saints' eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They knew what Dragoness was capable of, which was why they found it even more unbelievable. How is this possible? The lion and tiger saints looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Dragoness smiled sarcastically and sneered, "A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. Lion and tiger saints, you're just frogs at the bottom of a well." Dragoness returned to Yiguchen's side, her sparkling eyes filled with gratitude. If it weren't for Yiguchen's help, she wouldn't have been able to get her revenge today. Dragoness must have completely activated the water dragon bloodline. She's different now. Mu Lanue looked at Dragoness deeply. Now, the dragon lady's bloodline was not weaker than hers. This was beyond Mu Lanue's expectations. This was a good thing for Mu Lanue. At least she had another powerful helper. In the end, only Yiguchen was left of the water tribe. Although the people around felt unfamiliar with Yiguchen, they were still interested in him. Firstly, he was Dragoness's husband. Secondly, he had defeated Tuoba Lai. These 2 points alone were enough to attract attention. Mu Lanue paid more attention to Yiguchen. After all, the scene of Yiguchen crushing Tuoba Lai had left a deep impression on her. Mu Lanue also looked at him curiously. She also wanted to know the quality of this new Triple Crown champion's bloodline. The stormy wave saint stared at Yiguchen unwillingly. With his narrow-mindedness, he naturally hoped that Yiguchen's bloodline was inferior. Yiguchen looked indifferent. He didn't care about the others' gazes and walked to the bloodline gate. Dragoness secretly clenched her jade-like hands, worried for Yiguchen. She was the only one present who knew that Yiguchen wasn't a barbarian, let alone having the barbarian bloodline. Yiguchen took a deep breath, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. He stepped into the bloodline gate. The world was silent. Chapter 543. Almost everyone's eyes were fixed on Yiguchen. After all, Yiguchen's reputation in the barbarian tribe was not weak. Mu Lanue looked at Yiguchen deeply. If Yiguchen really displayed an extraordinary bloodline talent, then she might be able to give him a hand. However, after Yiguchen stepped into the bloodline door, the entire bloodline door did not move at all for a moment. Not a single ray of light was emitted. All the holy sons and holy daughters were bewildered. The dragon girl's face was slightly pale. "This guy, isn't he?" The stormy wave saint was stunned, but his face immediately showed joy. Mu Lanue also frowned. The bloodline gate could not be wrong, so the only possibility was, the atmosphere of the whole world seemed to be frozen. Even the elders of the Mulan family slowly stepped forward and stared at Yiguchen. In history, there was no lack of people from the 7 major forces who wanted to sneak into the barbarian tribe. But the result was, without exception, miserable. Just when the people of the Mulan family could not help but make a move. The bloodline gate finally emitted a rich green light. When the light came out, the dragon girl's heart finally settled down. Although she did not know how Yiguchen, as an outsider, did it, at least the crisis was over. Mu Lanue was also slightly relieved. If this Triple Crown champion was an outsider impersonating him, it would be disappointing. However, the green light could only be said to be passable. Compared to the dragon girl, it was not amazing. But at this moment, the green light changed again. The rich blue light immediately spread out. This. Not to mention the ordinary saints, even the lion and tiger saints opened their eyes as wide as copper bells. The stormy wave saint's face was full of astonishment, which looked quite funny. Only Mu Lanue and the dragon girl could trigger the blue light of the bloodline gate. Even the lion and tiger saints only had a hint of blue. Now there was a third person. But the shock was obviously not over. This was because within the blue light, there seemed to be a faint purple light. Could it be? Mu Lanue was also surprised. She covered her mouth with her jade-like hand and stared at the bloodline gate in a daze. If there really was a purple light shining in the end, it would be quite shocking. This was because even 4-Crown King Tuoba Shang was unable to completely activate the purple light. Everyone held their breaths as they stared at the bloodline gate. But in the end, the light dissipated and Yiguchen withdrew. Mu Lanue's eyes revealed a trace of disappointment. In the end, the purple light did not appear. Even so, the appearance of the blue light was extremely shocking. At least in Mu Lanue's eyes, Yiguchen's bloodline was as pure as hers. Coupled with his Triple Crown champion strength, he would definitely be a great help to Mu Lanue. For a moment, Mu Lanue looked at Yiguchen with sparkling eyes. At this time, Dragoness faintly smiled and stood in front of Yiguchen. She teased Mu Lanue, "Saintess Mu Lanue, this is my husband. You guys are very good." Mu Lanue smiled sincerely. On the other side, the White Lion Saint and the Black Tiger Saint's faces darkened. They were just mocking Dragoness and the others, but now, both Dragoness and Yiguchen were tested with a blue light, which represented a superior pure bloodline. They were slightly weaker. This is only the first round. There are still 2 more rounds. The 2 saints were unwilling to accept the result. Yiguchen looked at the bloodline gate thoughtfully. Just now, he secretly activated the ancient god tactic. The ancient god tactic was inherited from the ancient god, who was the ancestor of the barbarian tribe. Yiguchen almost failed to control his strength just now. If he used all his strength, it would not be difficult to create a purple light shining in the world. But that would be too eye-catching and would cause speculation. Brother Dugu, you are so powerful. Shui Rua was completely convinced by Yiguchen. Okay, let's go to the second round, Mu Lanue said. The saints and saintesses who passed the test followed Mu Lanue and left. As for those whose bloodline did not even release the yellow light, they were not qualified to participate in the next round of tests. Not long after, Mu Lanue led everyone to a canyon in the mountain range. Mu Lanue raised her voice and said, "The second round is a test of combat strength. There is a puppet array in the canyon with many invulnerable iron puppets whose strength is comparable to the 9 transformation divine soul realm. It is also the place where the disciples of the Mu Lanue family train. The second round is very simple. You just need to pass through this canyon." Mu Lanue's words caused an uproar. The saints and saintesses were only at the 9 transformation divine soul realm. But in the canyon, there were a large number of iron puppets of the same level. They were extremely strong and invulnerable. The difficulty of this round was definitely not low. Among the crowd, except for the lion and tiger saints, Mu Zhongling, and other powerful saints and saintesses, the rest were nervous. Dragoness looked indifferent. Before her transformation, she was still afraid of this test. But now, she was not afraid at all. Shui Ruo, on the other hand, had a worried look on her face. Among the holy maidens, her battle prowess was probably on the lower side. The turbulent wave saint and the others were also nervous. Soon, there were people who took the test and entered the canyon. After a while, the sound of fighting could be heard. But not long after, the saint was sent flying by an iron puppet. The first saint to make a move had returned in failure. Then came the second and the third. Most of them could not pass. Only a few were able to persist for a long time and barely passed. Mu Lanyu sighed slightly. The saints and saintesses of the peace faction were still far behind the saints and saintesses of the Tuoba family. If it were Lei Jiuyo, Golden Sun Saint, Feng Xiaotian, and the others, it would be easy for them to pass through this puppet array. Next, the green-haired girl from the Wood tribe, Mu Zhongling, made her move. Her figure was as graceful as a willow. With a wave of her hand, countless vines spread out and entangled those iron puppets. She was as light as a forest fairy. Soon, Mu Zhongling passed through the puppet array. She is indeed the top saintess of the Wood tribe, Mu Lanyu praised. Finally, there was someone who stood out. The White Lion Holy Sun and the Black Tiger Holy Sun followed suit. They also quickly passed through the puppet array. Then, it was the aquatic's turn. The turbulent wave saint and the others also barely passed through the puppet array. They were covered in injuries. Then, it was the dragon lady. She also displayed extraordinary strength, which attracted everyone's attention. Why do I feel that the dragon lady's strength has increased by a lot? She is not weaker than the Triple Crown King. Many people were surprised. They did not know about the dragon lady's transformation. Then, only Yi Guqin and Shui Ruo were left. Shui Ruo smiled bitterly and was about to make her move. Although the probability was almost 100%, it was impossible to pass. Just then, Yi Guqin turned to Mu Lanyu and asked lightly, "Can I bring someone with me?" Everyone was stunned when they heard this. The puppet array was already difficult enough. Ordinary saints could not pass it at all. Yi Guqin wanted to bring someone with him. And it was obvious that Shui Ruo's strength was only a burden. She could not help Yi Guqin. Mu Lanyu also looked at Yi Guqin in surprise. This person was serious. No need. Brother Dugu, how can I trouble you? Shui Ruo hurriedly waved her hand, afraid that she would trouble Yi Guqin. It's just a small matter, Yi Guqin said casually. It was indeed a small matter to him. Ridiculous. He doesn't know how difficult it is to pass the puppet array. Those who made it through, including the Lion Tiger Saints and the others, all sneered. Although they could pass, it did not mean that the puppet array was easy to pass. Now is not the time to be a hero, Mu Lanyu reminded. Yi Guqin's performance in the first round was beyond her expectations. However, the puppet array was a test of combat strength. It had nothing to do with bloodline talent. Mu Lanyu did not want to see Yi Guqin fall in the second round. Say it. What's your request? Yi Guqin said indifferently. You can bring someone with you, but the puppet array's power will be doubled. In other words, the number of iron puppets will also be doubled, Mu Lanyu said. As soon as these words came out, it immediately caused an uproar. The current puppet array was already difficult enough to deal with. If the difficulty was doubled, then how many people present here would be able to pass through? If the difficulty is doubled, I will have to put in a lot of effort to pass it. I can't even guarantee success, the Wooden Bell Spirit murmured. I think he can't back down now, the Lion Saint and Tiger Saint sneered. Brother Dugu, thank you, but forget it. Shui Ruo was shocked by Mu Lanyue's words. Double the difficulty? how could they pass it? Yiguchen looked indifferent. Everyone stared at Yiguchen, wondering what he would choose. It's okay. Shui Ruo, follow behind me. Yiguchen did not think too much and said with a smile. Sigh. Mu Lanhua shook her head. She had already reminded him. If he failed in the end, he could only blame himself. Chapter 544. Yiguchen and Shui Ruo stood side by side in front of the canyon, ready to challenge the puppet array. The saints and saintesses around them were all watching. Mu Lanhua sighed in her heart. She finally found a good helper. But it seemed that he was going to die in the second round. Sigh, how can Dugu Wubai be so stubborn? If he doesn't have the ability, Shui Ruo will be disqualified if something happens. Seeing this, the turbulent wave saint couldn't help but shake his head. You shut up. Dragoness looked unhappy and shouted coldly. The turbulent wave saint's face turned green and white. He looked at Yiguchen gloomily. Not only him, but the lion and tiger saints were also watching Yiguchen make a fool of himself. If he failed alone, he could only blame himself for being incompetent. But if he took an extra person with him because of his stubbornness, he would be disqualified and become a laughingstock. Let's start when you're ready, Mu Lanhua said. The power of the puppet array in the canyon had doubled, and the number of iron puppets had also doubled. Everyone present could even feel that the earth seemed to be shaking, as if thousands of soldiers and horses were shaking the canyon. Shui Ruo's face was slightly pale, but she still gritted her teeth. Just follow me, Yiguchen said. Shui Ruo nodded. The two entered the canyon directly. Not long after entering the canyon, Yiguchen saw the black iron puppets rushing toward them. These iron puppets were 7 feet tall, and their bodies were made of gold and iron. Divine weapons couldn't hurt them, and they were even more difficult to deal with than ordinary saints. They are somewhat similar to the blood cloud puppets, Yiguchen thought to himself. Of course, the strength of these iron puppets was far inferior to the blood cloud puppets. But Yiguchen couldn't use the power of the blood cloud puppets or the divine eagle. He could only rely on himself. Seeing the iron puppets attacking from all directions, Shui Ruoshin started to panic. Follow closely. Yiguchen did not hesitate and immediately attacked. With his current strength, even if he did not use any moves, his unparalleled physical strength was enough to deal with these mindless puppets. Boom! 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 Yiguchen did not use his true chi. He did not even use his totemic power. Just a simple punch was enough to send the puppets flying backward. Even deep fist imprints had appeared on his tough body. What a powerful physical body! Mu Lanhua's beautiful eyes revealed surprise. The other saints and saintesses who were paying attention were also shocked. Yiguchen's physical strength had exceeded their expectations. You do have some skills to be able to defeat Tuobalai. Even though the lion and tiger saints disdained Yiguchen, they had to admit that his physical body was indeed amazing. But if that's the only way, I still can't bring people through, Mu Lanhua thought. Just as Yiguchen pushed back the iron puppets in front of him, more and more puppets surrounded him from all directions. The number of iron puppets was twice as many as the ordinary puppets. Even Shui Ruo didn't want to be protected. She also urged her supreme totem to attack. But there were too many iron puppets. Even if Yiguchen could send an iron puppet flying with one punch, it would take a while for him to clear all of them. If he was alone, it would be easy for him to pass. But now Shui Ruo was dragging him down. Shui Ruo could not keep up with Yiguchen's pace in all aspects, such as reaction, speed, and strength. Even if Yiguchen opened a path in front, Shui Ruo would be entangled by the iron puppets and would not be able to keep up. Not good, the situation is not good. On the other side of the canyon, the dragon lady, who had already passed, looked at Yiguchen and Shui Ruo with worry. Shui Ruo's rhythm was completely messed up. She could not keep up with Yiguchen's pace at all. and the number of iron puppets around them was increasing. It looked like they were about to surround them. If this continued, Yiguchin and Shui Rua would be exhausted to death. Ha, he's really trying to show off. He's harming himself and others. The lion and tiger sages shook their heads and laughed. Dragon lady, see, I was right. Trying to show off won't end well. As if he had finally seen Yiguchin being defeated, the stormy wave sage's expression immediately became excited. The dragon lady could not be bothered with the stormy wave sage. She was just worried for Yiguchin in her heart. On the other side, Mulanue saw that Yiguchin and Shui Rua were in danger and shook her head slightly. She thought that she had received a great help again. But if he was arrogant and tried to show off, not only would he not be of help, but he would also ruin things at the crucial moment. So if Yiguchin could not pass the second round, then even if he was the Triple Crown champion, Mulanue would have to give up. But Murangxiu, who was beside her, was still paying attention to Yiguchin. He was someone who had witnessed Yiguchin's strength. In the canyon, Shui Rua, who was surrounded by iron puppets, was full of despair. Boom! Yiguchin sent another iron puppet flying and landed beside Shui Rua. Are you alright? Yiguchin asked indifferently. I'm sorry, big brother Dugu. Shui Rua has troubled you. You should go through the round alone. Shui Rua is not strong enough. It's okay if I'm eliminated. Shui Rua's face was full of guilt. Because she was indeed a burden to Yiguchin. I said, this is a small matter to me, Yiguchin said indifferently. At this moment, the densely packed iron puppets in the surroundings finally formed an encirclement and completely surrounded the two of them. Boom! 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 All the iron puppets shot out at the same time and attacked Yiguchin and Shui Rua. It's over. The lion and tiger sages shook their heads. Mulanue also sighed. The dragon lady's palms were sweaty. Shui Rua gritted her teeth. Even if she could not pass, she had to give it her all. Yiguchin looked the most indifferent. They're just puppets. He suddenly activated the ancient god's tactic. Although he did not fully activate it and transform into the ancient god form, his physical strength increased exponentially. Blood chi gushed out of his body as if an ancient angry dragon had awakened. Yiguchin punched the ground with all his strength. Boom! An incomparably terrifying vibrating force suddenly spread out, as if an immemorial giant beast was stomping on the ground. The power of the ancient god's tactic made the power of this punch extremely shocking. Bang! With Yiguchin as the center, powerful ripples of air spread out in all directions. The iron puppets that rushed over were all sent flying dozens of feet away by this terrifying air wave. Thick cracks spread out like a spider web. Even the entire canyon was resonating and trembling. Huge rocks were falling from above. Yiguchin took Shui Rua and rushed out of the canyon like an arrow. It seemed like a long time, but in fact, it was only a few moments. Everyone had yet to come back to their senses when they were shocked by that huge wave of air fluctuations. The entire canyon seemed to be about to collapse. After a few breaths, everyone saw Yiguchin and Shui Rua appear at the other side of the canyon safe and sound. The lion and tiger sage's expressions froze. The stormy wave saint's mouth was wide open, and his expression was quite funny. As for the Mulan saintess, she showed a rare look of surprise. Murangxiu was not surprised. After all, she had seen Yiguchin's strength. At this moment, everyone's eyes finally gathered on Yiguchin's body. For the first time, they began to look at this ordinary-looking young man who had always been calm. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.